You probably have an image in your head when you hear the name Marcus Aurelius. Maybe it's the old guy from the movie Gladiator. Maybe it's a marble bust in a museum, bearded, serious, looking a little bit tired. But before we dive into his head, we have to look at his world, because context is everything. See, history calls the period before Marcus the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. It sounds nice, doesn't it? A golden age, and for a while, under the so-called 5 good emperors, it was. But by the time Marcus actually takes the throne, that golden age was rusting, fast. He didn't inherit a paradise, he inherited a crisis. Actually, he inherited a disaster. We need to understand the weight on this guy's shoulders. Marcus comes into power in 161 AD, and almost immediately the wheels start falling off the empire. The Parthians attack in the east, but that's just the warm-up. The real nightmare was in the north. German tribes, the Marcomanni, the Quadi, they start pouring across the Danube. And then the soldiers come back from the east, and they bring a souvenir with them. Not gold, not spices. They bring the plague, the Antonine Plague. It wasn't just a bad flu season, it was devastating. Millions died. The streets of Rome were literally piled with bodies. The economy crashed, the army was decimated. So this is the world Marcus is running. He's dealing with a pandemic, an economic collapse, and endless wars on the borders. And here is the tragic irony. This is the part that really gets me. Marcus Aurelius didn't want to be a soldier. He didn't want to be a politician. He was a nerd. Seriously, he was a bookworm. He was born into a good family, sure, connected to the Emperor Adrian, but he was adopted and groomed for power by Antoninus Pius. He spent decades waiting in the wings. And what was he doing? He was studying. He loved philosophy. He idolized Epictetus, the former slave turned Stoic teacher. Marcus wanted the life of the mind. He wanted to talk about ethics and nature and logic. People call him the philosopher king, Plato's ideal ruler. But the reality? The reality was a cruel joke. The philosopher king spent almost his entire reign in a tent, covered in mud, commanding legions against barbarians. He spent his life doing exactly what he hated, because duty required it. He ruled with his brother by adoption, Lucius Verus, for a while. That was a first for Rome, 2 emperors. But Lucius, well, let's just say he liked the party lifestyle a bit too much. He died early, leaving Marcus to carry the whole burden alone. And the hits just kept coming. His general, Avidius Cassius, a guy Marcus trusted, betrayed him and declared himself emperor. Civil war. Then there's his personal life. We think of emperors as untouchable, but Marcus buried almost all of his children. He had 13 or 14 kids, and most of them didn't outlive him. He watched them die, one by one. And the one son who did survive? Commodus. If you've seen Gladiator, you know how that turned out. Marcus knew his son wasn't fit to rule, yet he let him succeed him anyway. It's a glaring blind spot in a man who saw everything else so clearly. A reminder that even the wisest among us can't fix everything. So picture him. He's old, he's sick, he's got ulcers, he can barely eat, he's in constant pain. He's freezing in a military camp in what is now Austria or Hungary, the Carnuntum. It's bleak, it's lonely. He can't vent to his generals, he has to be the strong leader. He can't complain to the Senate, he has to be the emperor. So he talks to himself. That is what Meditations is. It wasn't a book. He didn't write it for you, he didn't write it for me. He certainly didn't write it for publication. The original title wasn't Meditations, it was just Taes Heauton. That's Greek for to himself. And that's a key detail. He wrote it in Greek. Why? He was Roman. Latin was the language of the court, the army, the laws. But Greek? Greek was the language of philosophy. It was the language of his soul. Writing in Greek was a way to escape the noise of the Roman camp and reconnect with the truths he learned as a boy. The book is messy, it's repetitive. You'll see him tell himself the same things over and over again. Be patient. Death is natural. Don't get angry at idiots. Why the repetition? Because he needed to hear it. These aren't lectures, they are spiritual exercises. He's not teaching, he's coping. He is coaching himself through the worst days of his life. It's a miracle this thing survived it all. It was a private diary. It should have been burned when he died, but somehow it made it, and thank God it did. Because what we have here isn't a dusty philosophy textbook. It is a look directly into the soul of the most powerful man on earth, realizing that all his power couldn't save him from suffering. And that is why we are still reading it 2,000 years later. You open the book, and usually when you crack open the diary of a powerful man, let alone the most powerful man on earth, you expect ego. You expect a list of conquests, battles won, enemies crushed, or maybe a justification for why he did what he did. But Meditations, it doesn't start with I. It starts with from. From my grandfather, from my mother, from my teacher. We are sitting on the banks of the River Gran. It's the Danube frontier. It's cold, it's muddy. The Roman legions are fighting the Quadi, a Germanic tribe. It's a brutal, exhausting war. Marcus Aurelius is in his tent, arguably the loneliest man in the world. And to keep his sanity, to keep his soul from rotting under the weight of the purple cloak, he starts writing. He starts by counting his blessings. Book 1 is often skipped by readers. It looks like a laundry list of names, a credit roll before the movie starts. But don't skip it. This is the foundation. This is Marcus building his own character brick by brick by looking at the people who made him. He is defining what a good man looks like by seeing the pieces of goodness in others. Let's look at the DNA of a philosopher king. The family lineage. It starts at home. He begins with grandfather Varus. The lesson here isn't complicated, but it's hard. Decent character and control of temper. Think about that. The first thing an emperor needs isn't strategy or charisma. It's the ability to not lose his cool. Marcus knew he had a temper. We see it later in the book. He wrestles with it. But he looks at his grandfather and remembers, anger is a choice. You don't have to explode. Then his biological father, Annius Verus. Marcus barely knew him. He died young, but the reputation lingered. Modesty and manliness. It's an interesting combination, isn't it? We usually associate manliness with bravado, with taking up space. Marcus sees it differently. Real strength is quiet. It's modest. You don't have to shout if you're actually strong. Then we get to the most powerful influence in his early life, his mother, Domitia Lucilla. She was wealthy, extremely wealthy. But what did Marcus learn from her? Not how to spend money. He learned how to give it away, generosity. But more than that, he learned simplicity in diet. She lived like a poor person. She rejected the excess, the luxury, the softness of the upper class. And she taught him something terrifyingly high level. She taught him to avoid not just doing evil, but even thinking about it. That's the standard. It's not enough to be legally innocent, you have to be morally clean on the inside. Finally, his great-grandfather. This is a practical lesson. He realizes that public schools are often trash. His great-grandfather spent a fortune on private tutors. The takeaway? Education is the one thing you never cheap out on. If you want a good mind, you have to pay for good teachers. Early mentors and the governor. So the family set the baseline. Now come the shapers. There's an unnamed tutor, often called the governor. He taught Marcus something that sounds trivial,
but is actually the key to political survival. Indifference to partisanship. In Rome, they had chariot racing teams, the greens and the blues. People rioted over this stuff. It was tribal. It was like modern politics or hardcore sports fans. The governor taught him, don't pick a side, don't get sucked into the noise. He also taught him to endure labor, to want little, and this is a big one, to turn a deaf ear to slander. When you're the emperor, everyone is whispering, everyone is lying. If you listen to the gossip, you become paranoid. Look at Nero or Domitian. Marcus learned early, ignore the whispers, do your work, mind your own business. Then there's Diognetus, the painting master. He taught Marcus to steer clear of trivial pursuits. Back then, it was cockfighting. Today, maybe it's doom scrolling or reality TV. Just don't waste your time. Diognetus also saved Marcus from superstition. He taught him to disbelieve miracle workers, exorcists, and magicians. This is crucial. Marcus was a man of reason, not a man of voodoo. And perhaps most importantly, Diognetus introduced him to the camp bed, sleeping on the floor, roughing it. Even as a boy, Marcus was training for the hard life of a soldier. The philosophers, the heavy hitters. Now we get into the mind builders, the Stoics. The most important name here is Rusticus. If you take one thing from this section, remember Rusticus. He was the one who told Marcus, bluntly, your character requires correction. Imagine telling the heir to the throne he needs therapy, but Marcus loved him for it. Rusticus taught him to avoid sophistry, which is basically talking just to sound smart. He taught him not to write purely for effect. No flowery speeches, just truth. Rusticus also taught him to read carefully. Don't be satisfied with the surface level. Dig. And the greatest gift of all, Rusticus loaned him his personal copy of the Discourses of Epictetus. Without Rusticus, Marcus never reads Epictetus. Without Epictetus, we don't get Meditations, period. Then Apollonius. This guy was a rock. He taught Marcus independence, to rely on reason and nothing else. Not luck, not gambling, not hope. Reason. He showed Marcus how to be the same man in rain or shine, whether in severe pain, losing a child, or dealing with a chronic illness. Apollonius didn't change. He was firm yet gentle. That balance is incredibly hard to strike. Usually, firm people are harsh and gentle people are pushovers. Apollonius was both. Sextus. From Sextus, Marcus learned dignity without affectation. You know those people who are smart, but they try so hard to show you they're smart? Sextus wasn't that. He possessed the art of concealment. His wisdom seemed effortless. He also had the patience of a saint. He could tolerate ignorant, opinionated people without getting angry. For a ruler dealing with senators and generals who think they know everything, this was a superpower. Alexander the Grammarian. This is a lesson in social grace. We've all been corrected by someone who was a jerk about it. Actually, it's whom, not who. Alexander didn't do that. If someone made a mistake, he wouldn't scold them. He would just use the correct phrase in his reply, modeling the right answer without embarrassing the speaker. It's a masterclass in tact. Fronto, the rhetorician. Fronto was Marcus's correspondence teacher, but he taught him a dark truth about politics. Tyranny requires malice, cunning, and hypocrisy. And he pointed out that the aristocracy, the patricians, often lack natural human affection. They are cold. Marcus had to learn to spot that coldness so he didn't become it. Alexander the Platonist. A lesson for the busy modern person. Alexander told him, stop saying, I'm too busy. We use busyness as an excuse to get out of our duties. Oh, I can't help you. I have urgent business. Alexander saw right through that. Do your job. Fulfill your social obligations. Stop making excuses. And Catullus. He taught Marcus how to be a friend. If a friend complains, even if they are being unreasonable, don't brush them off. Restore the relationship. And, like a true Roman, he taught him to love his teachers and his children heartily. The ideal statesman. Before looking at the king, Marcus looks at the statesman. Claudius Severus. From him, Marcus got the political ideal, a state based on equality, a democracy with free speech. Wait, isn't Marcus an emperor, a monarch? Yes, but in his heart, he respected the freedom of the subject. He didn't want to be a tyrant. He wanted a state that respected the individual. That's a radical idea for a Roman emperor. Maximus. Self-mastery. This man could not be swayed. Sickness didn't break him. Success didn't spoil him. The most beautiful line about Maximus is this: everyone believed that he meant what he said. Honesty, total transparency. He never hurried, but he never procrastinated. He was never overwhelmed. He was a machine of virtue. The great example, Antoninus Pius. Then we arrive at the giant, the adoptive father, Antoninus Pius. Marcus spends the most time here. This was the man Marcus replaced. This was the model. If you want to know how to lead, look at Antoninus. He was mild. He held to his decisions with an iron grip, but he wasn't loud about it. He didn't care about honors, statues, titles, applause. He ignored it all. He was a worker. He loved labor. He would dig into the details of the empire's finances. He would listen to people, really listen, even when he had the power to shut them up. He tolerated criticism. In fact, he looked into the eyes of people who attacked him and didn't blink. He wasn't superstitious. He was religious, yes, but not frantic about it. He was frugal. He cut down on the gladiator shows. He didn't waste the public's money on vanity projects. He took care of his body, but not because he was vain. He did it so he wouldn't need doctors. He stayed healthy so he could serve the state. He wasn't fickle. He kept the same friends for years. He wasn't moody. And he had foresight. He saw things coming long before they happened and prepared for them without drama. Without drama, that's the key. Antoninus made ruling the world look boring because he was so good at it. Marcus looked at Antoninus and said, that is what I need to be. The gods, divine providence. Finally, Marcus turns his eyes upward. He thanks the gods, but notice what he thanks them for. He doesn't thank them for becoming emperor. He doesn't thank them for wealth or power. He thanks them for the people in his life. Good grandparents, good parents, good teachers. He thanks them for what he didn't do. He's grateful he didn't lose his virginity too early. He's grateful he didn't waste his time on poetry or rhetoric. He realized those were distractions from the real work of philosophy. He thanks them for his wife, Faustina. History has been unkind to Faustina. Rumors say she cheated on him, that she was disloyal. But here, in his private diary, Marcus calls her submissive and affectionate. He loved her. He saw her as a blessing, not a curse. He acknowledges that when he needed help, the gods gave him remedies, sometimes even in dreams. And perhaps the most telling gratitude of all, he thanks the gods that he never had to compromise his integrity for money. He never found himself in a tight spot where he had to sell his soul to survive. He ends Book 1 with a heavy thought. All these things, good parents, good character, good teachers, the chance to be a philosopher, these aren't things you can earn. They require the help of the gods and fortune. He knows he got lucky. He knows he stands on the shoulders of giants. And now, sitting in that cold tent on the River Gran, having acknowledged his debts, having armed himself with the virtues of the past, he is ready to write. He is ready to face himself. Book 1 is the armor he puts on before the battle of the soul begins. setting the stage. So we leave the warmth of book 1. If you recall, that was the gratitude journal. That was Marcus thanking his grandfather, his mother, his teachers. It was warm. It was nostalgic. Book 2 is where the gloves come off. You have to understand where he is when he writes this. He isn't sitting in a marble palace in Rome, eating grapes and having someone fan him with a palm frond. He's at the front. He writes this section among the Quadi on the River Gran. That's modern-day Slovakia. It's the Danube frontier. It's damp, it's freezing, and it smells like wet wool, horse sweat, and fear. The Quadi are a Germanic tribe, and they are trying very hard to kill Romans. Marcus is an old man by now. He's sick, he has ulcers, he's tired. And every morning he wakes up in a tent, surrounded by people who want something from him, knowing that today might be the day the line breaks. This isn't theory anymore. This is a field manual for keeping your sanity when the world is on fire. Let's start with how he starts his day. Verse 1. This is arguably the most famous passage in the entire book. If you only know one thing about Stoicism, it's probably this. He says to himself right when he wakes up, "Today I shall be meeting with the busybody, the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful, the envious, the unsocial." Talk about a mood setter, right? Most of us wake up and hope for the best. We think, maybe today traffic will be light. Maybe my boss will be in a good mood. Maybe the comment section on my post will be nice. Marcus says, don't do that. That's delusional. He tells himself, I will meet these people. It's a guarantee. But here is the pivot. He doesn't say this to get depressed. He says it so he won't be surprised. He goes on to say that these people act this way because they are ignorant of what is good and what is evil. They aren't monsters. They're confused. They are stumbling around in the dark. But Marcus, he knows better. He knows the nature of the good is the beautiful, and the bad is the ugly. And because he knows this, he says, none of those things can injure me, for nobody can implicate me in what is degrading. This is the killer line. Nobody can implicate me in what is degrading. Someone can yell at you. They can steal from you. They can lie to you. But they cannot force your character to become ugly. Only you can do that. If you yell back, now you're ugly too. If you hate them, now you're complicit. He reminds himself that this annoying person is his kinsman, not by blood maybe, but by the same divine mind. We are all cut from the same cloth. We are made to work together. Being angry at them is like the top teeth declaring war on the bottom teeth. It's unnatural. It's stupid. So shake hands with the day. Expect the idiots. Love them anyway. The anatomy of the self. Now, look at yourself. Marcus does a quick dissection, verse 2 and 3. What are you really? If you strip away the titles, the bank account, the reputation, what's left? He breaks it down into 3 parts: flesh, breath, and the ruling faculty. The flesh? It's meat. It's blood, bones, a network of nerves and veins. It's fragile. It's going to rot. Stop obsessing over it. The breath, it's just air, wind. You suck it in, you blow it out. It's not yours. It's borrowed from the atmosphere, and you have to give it back eventually. Then there's the third part, the ruling faculty, your mind, your reason. This is the only part that matters. This is the captain of the ship. And here, Marcus gives himself a harsh order. Put away your books. I love this. The most well-read man in the empire, a guy who loves philosophy, tells himself to put the books down. Why? Because you can't read your way to virtue forever. At some point, you have to stop highlighting quotes and start living them. Reading about patience doesn't count if you lose your temper when the soup is cold. He says to let the ruling faculty take charge. Don't be a slave to the strings of impulse, like a puppet jerked around by every craving or fear. Accept what comes from the whole, from nature. If it's happening, it's part of the weave. Don't fight the fabric of reality. The urgency of action. So you understand what you are. Now you need to understand when you are. Verses 4 and 5 deal with urgency. Marcus looks at the clock. He realizes he has been procrastinating on his own life. He says, "Think how long thou hast been deferring these things." We all do this. We say, "I'll get serious about my life next year. I'll stop being so angry after this project is over." Marcus shouts, politely because he's a Stoic, but he's shouting, no. He reminds himself that the universe has a limit. You have a limit. Thou wilt vanish, and the opportunity will vanish, and never more return. It's blunt. You are going to die. Soon. So what do? You focus on the task at hand. He says to act like a Roman and a man. That means doing what is in front of you with unaffected dignity, natural love, and freedom and justice. And the only way to do that is to cut out the noise. He talks about getting rid of all other thoughts. You know that feeling when you're trying to work, but you're thinking about an argument you had 3 years ago, or worrying about money, or wondering what to eat for dinner? That's the puppet strings again. Marcus says, stop it. Perform this act, this one right here, as if it were the last act of your life. Because honestly, it might be. The dangers of external focus. Moving on to verses 6 through 8. This is where he talks about the misery of looking outside yourself. He writes, "Through not observing what is in the minds of others, a man has seldom been seen to be unhappy. But those who do not observe the movements of their own minds must of necessity be unhappy." Read that again. You rarely see someone miserable because they couldn't read a mind, but you always see someone miserable because they aren't paying attention to their own soul. We spend so much energy trying to guess what people think of us. Did she like my presentation? Is he mad at me? Do they think I'm smart? Marcus calls this wretched. It's a waste of life. You are digging into other people's souls while yours is rotting from neglect. And verse 13 hits this hard too. He talks about people who are constantly speculating about their neighbors, trying to guess their secrets. He says they fail to realize that it's enough to just be with the daemon within yourself. That's your job, your internal sanctuary. Tending to your own garden is hard enough work. Stop trying to landscape your neighbor's yard. Now, a quick detour into moral categorization. Verse 10. Marcus references a philosopher named Theophrastus. It's a bit technical, but the point is fascinating. He compares sins of lust, desire, against sins of anger. Which is worse? Usually, we think anger is the scary one, but Marcus, following Theophrastus, says offenses committed through desire are more womanish. Now pause. Let's look at the context. In Roman terms, womanish meant passive, weak, lacking control. He's not being a misogynist in the modern sense. He's using the language of his time to describe passivity. His argument is this: when you are angry, you are usually reacting to pain. There is a contraction. You are hurt, so you lash out. It's bad, sure, but when you give in to lust, to pleasure, you are surrendering. You are letting your appetites enslave you. You aren't being pushed by pain. You are jumping into a hole because it looks fun. Both are bad. Both involve losing the ruling faculty. But surrendering to pleasure is a deeper betrayal of your strength than reacting to pain. Contemplating death and divinity. Verses 11 and 12, the heavy hitters. Let it be thy hour and thy moment to think how thou wouldst quit life. This is the Memento Mori. But Marcus adds a twist about the gods. This was a big debate back then. Do the gods exist? Do they care? Marcus takes a pragmatic approach. Option A, the gods exist and they are good. If so, they won't hurt you in the afterlife, so dying is safe. Option B, the gods don't exist or they don't care. In that case, why would you want to live in a world devoid of gods and providence anyway? It's an empty room. Either way, fear is irrational. He goes further. He says death is just a process of nature. It's like digestion. It's like growing up. Is it evil for a baby to become a child? Is it evil for an acorn to become a tree? No, it's change. Nothing which is according to nature is evil. He then looks at the speed of oblivion. Verse 12. Look how fast things vanish. The bodies are buried, the memories fade. The people who remembered the people, they die too. It's all a river, sweeping everything downstream into the dark. If everything is disappearing that fast, what is worth stressing over? Fame? Gone. Money? Dust. The philosophy of time and perception. This leads perfectly to verses 14 and 15, the equality of death. This is a mind-bending thought. Imagine a man who lives to be 100. Imagine a baby who dies after 3 days. Marcus argues that when they die, they lose exactly the same thing. How? Because you can only lose what you have, and the only thing you have is the present moment, the tiny slice of now. The 100-year-old doesn't have the past, that's gone. He doesn't have the future, that hasn't happened. He only has now. The baby only has now. So when they die, they both lose the exact same currency, the present. This levels the playing field. It makes death less scary. You aren't losing a future. You're just stopping in the present. And verse 15, everything is opinion. Monimus the cynic said this. Things aren't good or bad. Your opinion about things makes them good or bad. The event is neutral. The interpretation is up to you. 5 ways the soul violates itself. Verse 16. This is the checklist. If you want to know if you are failing at life, check these 5 points. Marcus lists 5 ways the human soul violates or degrades itself. Becoming an abscess. When you are angry at the world or resentful of what happens, you become a tumor on the universe. You are rejecting nature. You're a part of the body deciding it hates the body. That's cancer. Turning away. When you reject another human being or try to hurt them, this breaks the bond of kinship. Yielding. When you are overpowered by pleasure or pain, you aren't the driver anymore. The sensations are driving. Hypocrisy. When you say one thing and do another. When you wear a mask, this is a violation of truth. Aimlessness. Acting without a goal, just drifting. Randomness is an insult to reason. It's a brutal list. It covers almost every mistake we make. Anger, cruelty, addiction, lying, and laziness. And finally, verse 17, the conclusion of Book 2. Marcus sums it all up. Life is a warfare and a stranger's sojourn. Get that image in your head. Life isn't a vacation. It isn't a permanent residency. You are a stranger passing through a foreign land, and the land is a war zone. The body is a river, constantly changing. The soul is a dream and vapor. Fame is oblivion. So, what can guide us? What can get us through the minefield safely? One thing and only one: philosophy. And he doesn't mean sitting in a classroom debating logic. He defines philosophy very simply. Keeping the daemon within you safe. Being superior to pleasure and pain. Doing nothing without a purpose. accepting death with a cheerful mind. He ends the book with a beautiful scientific view of death. It's just dissolution of the elements. You are made of stuff: carbon, water, air. When you die, the stuff just goes back to the pile to make something else. It is according to nature, and nothing is evil which is according to nature. And with that, Marcus closes book 2. He puts down the pen, he probably blows out the lamp, and he goes to sleep in a cold tent, ready to wake up and do it all again. All right, let's get into book 3. If book 2 was about getting your feet wet, waking up, shaking off the grumpiness, remembering you're human, book 3 is where Marcus takes the gloves off. This is where he starts looking at the hard stuff, the really hard stuff. He stops being polite about mortality. He stops being polite about your ego. And honestly, it's exactly what we need to hear. The urgency of mental clarity. You know that panic you feel when you realize you're running late? Marcus wants you to feel that about your life, but not for the reason you think. Usually, when we talk about death, we're afraid of the end, the heart stopping, the lights going out. But Marcus points out something terrifyingly practical here. He says, look, it's not just death you have to race against, it's the decline, it's senility, it's the fog. He writes about this physiological race against time. He says that even if you live to be 100, who's to say your mind will stay sharp until the very end? You might keep breathing, digesting food, and walking around, but the ability to reason, the ability to understand your duty, to connect complex ideas, to actually be a philosopher, that can leave the building long before the body shuts down. That's a heavy thought. He's telling us, use your mind while you actually have it. Don't put off the hard thinking, the character building, the deep work for when I'm older and wiser. You might get older and just get vaguer. The intellect often checks out before the heart stops beating. So the urgency isn't just, I might die tomorrow. It's, I might lose the ability to be me tomorrow. So do it now. The aesthetics of nature and unintended consequences. Now, let's pivot to something a bit unexpected: baking bread. Marcus has this beautiful section where he talks about the unintended consequences of nature. He talks about a loaf of bread in the oven. When it bakes, it cracks open at the top. Now, technically, that crack is a flaw. It wasn't in the baker's plan. But Marcus says that rough, broken ridge catches the eye. It stimulates the appetite. It has a specific beauty because it wasn't intended. He talks about figs when they are almost too ripe, right at the moment they're about to rot. He talks about the brow of a lion or the foam dripping from a boar's mouth. If you look at these things objectively, they are ugly, dangerous, messy. But because they are part of nature, part of the whole, they are beautiful. He calls this developing the philosopher's eye. It's about seeing reality as it is, not how a painting depicts it. He says if you have this deep understanding of the universe, you'll see the charm in an old face, in the wrinkles of the elderly, just as much as in the smooth face of a child. He's challenging us to stop looking for superficial, Instagram-filtered perfection. Real beauty, the kind that matters, is found in the cracks, the aging, the byproducts of simply being alive. It's a call to love reality, warts and all. The Great Leveler, historical context on death. Then he brings the hammer down. Marcus loves a good reality check, and nothing checks reality like a list of dead celebrities. He runs through this list of heavy hitters. Hippocrates, the father of medicine, he cured thousands of people. He was the master of health. And then he got sick and died. Alexander the Great, the man conquered the known world. He was basically a god on earth. But once he died, Marcus points out,
fairly brutally, that Alexander and his mule driver ended up in the exact same place. Whether their souls dispersed into the air or their atoms got recycled into the result is identical. It's the doctor and king paradox. You can be the smartest doctor or the most powerful king, but you are still biological matter. You are renting your atoms, and the lease is short. He uses this voyage metaphor that I love. He says life is like a sea voyage. You embark, you make the trip, the ship docks, you get out. That's it. Why make a scene? Why cling to the railings? The voyage is done. Step off the boat. If there's an afterlife, great. The gods are there too. If there isn't, then you're stepping off into a quiet rest, free from pain and free from serving a master, your body, that is inferior to the mind serving it. The discipline of perception and social focus. This next part, honestly, he could have written this 10 minutes ago about social media.
Marcus gets very strict about mental energy. He sees attention as a currency, and most of us are bankrupting ourselves. He asks, why are you wasting time conjecturing about what your neighbor is doing, or thinking, or plotting? What's he up to? What did she mean by that? Why did they look at me that way? He calls this a massive waste of life. It pulls you away from your own ruling faculty. Every minute you spend speculating on someone else's thoughts is a minute you aren't managing your own. He proposes a radical standard. He calls it public thoughts. Here's the test. You should live in such a way and think in such a way that if someone suddenly asked, "What are you thinking right now?" you could answer immediately and honestly without blushing. No dark secrets, no petty jealousies, no scheming. If your internal world was broadcast on a giant screen, would you be ashamed? If the answer is yes, you've got work to do. He wants you to build an internal sanctuary. He calls it being a priest and minister of the gods. That temple is inside you. But you can't keep the temple clean if you're dragging in the mud of other people's opinions. Independence and the upright life. This leads directly to independence. If you stop obsessing over what others think, you stop needing their applause. Marcus is big on this distinction. Be upright, not kept upright. Think about that. Are you standing on your own 2 feet, structurally sound? Or are you being propped up by compliments, likes, validation, and the support of the crowd? If the crowd walks away, do you fall over? The goal of the Stoic is to have a spine of steel. You don't need a witness to be a good person. You don't need an audience to do the right thing. If you are only good when people are watching, you aren't good. You're just performing. The supreme choice, reason versus popularity. So life becomes a choice, a competition of goods. On one side, you have the ruling faculty, the hegemonicon. That's your mind, your reason, your ability to choose virtue. On the other side, popularity, wealth, physical pleasure, comfort. Marcus says these things are predatory. They sneak up on you. You think, I'll just chase a little bit of money, or I just want a little bit of fame. But these things don't share power. Once you let them in, they try to take over. He says you have to make a choice, and it's a one-way street. If you choose the path of the mind, if you choose to be a rational, social being, you can't look back. You can't be a philosopher on the weekends and a fame-hungry, chaotic mess on weekdays. It doesn't work. Choose your master. Is it your reason, or is it your appetites? Reverence for judgment and the community. Now, lest you think Marcus is telling you to be a lonely hermit, he swings back to community. He talks about the faculty of judgment. This is your superpower, your ability to look at a situation and decide what it means. You have to protect this judgment from error, sure, but why? Not just for you, but for the cosmopolis,
the world city. See, for Marcus, having a clear head isn't just a self-help hack, it's a civic duty. If your judgment is clouded, you can't help people. You can't be a good citizen of the world. We are connected. We are like bees in a hive. A bee that acts against the hive is acting against itself. So clearing your mind of junk is actually the most selfless thing you can do, because it prepares you to serve mankind. The insignificance of the past and future. But let's get back to time, because Marcus is obsessed with time in Book 3. He introduces the idea of the pinprick. We worry so much about our legacy, we worry about the future, we regret the past. Marcus says, stop. Look at the timeline of the universe. It's infinite. Now look at your life. It's a dot. Actually, it's smaller than a dot. The past, it's gone. You can't touch it. The future, uncertain. It might never happen. All you have, the only thing you actually possess, is the present moment, the fleeting now. That's it. He talks about the smallness of fame. He laughs at it, really. You want people to praise you in the future? The people who will praise you are just as mortal as you are. They're going to die too. And the people who come after them, they'll die too. It's like being proud of being applauded by a room full of ghosts. We inhabit a tiny, narrow corner of the earth. Even if you are huge in Rome, you are unknown in the rest of the world. So drop the ego. Live in the pinprick. The exercise of definition, stripping things naked. This is one of my favorite tools in the whole book. It's a mental exercise called physical definition. We get dazzled by things. A fancy car, a gourmet meal, a sexual hookup, a gold ring. We put these things on pedestals. Marcus says, strip them naked. Take the mask off. Look at the thing for what it physically is. That roasted meat you're drooling over? It's a dead fish. It's a dead pig. That expensive vintage wine? It's fermented grape juice. That purple robe that signifies you're the emperor, which Marcus wore, it's just sheep's wool dyed in the blood of a shellfish. Sex? It's friction of the insides and the spasmodic excretion of mucus. He's not trying to be a killjoy. Well, maybe a little bit. But the point isn't to be depressed. The point is to kill the arrogance of the object. Don't let objects control you. Don't let them lie to you about their value. See them as material, what they are made of, and formal, what they are for. Once you strip them naked, they lose their power over you. Acceptance of destiny and the cloth of fate. Then there's the cloth of fate. Marcus believes heavily in providence. He thinks the universe is a unified, living thing. He says you should accept what happens to you, even the bad stuff, the same way you accept a prescription from a doctor. When a doctor says, take this better medicine, or go on a cold water diet, you do it. Why? Because it leads to health. Marcus says, treat the events of your life like that prescription. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe you got sick. It's better. It tastes terrible. But it was prescribed by the cosmic doctor to ensure the health of the whole universe. It is part of the web. Everything is woven together. If you pull on one thread, the whole fabric moves. Your bad day is connected to the beginning of time. So love your lot. Don't just tolerate it. Love it. It was made specifically for you. The 3 components of identity. Near the end of the book, he breaks down what a human actually is, the tripartite soul. Body, the meat suit. We share this with cattle. It's just sensation. Soul, or breath, the nervous system, the impulses. This is where the passions live. We share this with wild beasts. We share this with Phalaris and Nero, tyrants who were slaves to their desires. The good person cuts the strings. The good person resides in the mind. The final definition of the good man.
So, what does this good man look like when the dust settles? He doesn't wear a mask. He doesn't play a role for an audience. He doesn't need to go to a mountain retreat or a desert to find peace, because he has peace inside himself. He waits for death, not with fear, but with a cheerful spirit. He's like a soldier waiting for the bugle to dismiss him from duty. He is simple, he is honest, and he has stepped out of the rat race of public opinion. Book 3 is a wake-up call. It's Marcus telling himself and us to stop wasting the little time we have left on things that aren't real. The body is dying. The past is gone. The neighbors are busy with their own nonsense. All you have is your mind, right here, right now. Protect it. Welcome to the trenches. If the first book of Meditations was a gratitude journal, and the second and third were rough sketches of the universe, Book 4 is where the real work begins. This is where Marcus Aurelius stops looking outward at his mentors or the gods and starts looking inward. You can feel a shift in the temperature here. The tone changes. It becomes urgent. It becomes incredibly focused. It's less about what is the world and more about how do I survive it without losing my mind. And remember the context. He isn't writing this from a comfortable villa in Tuscany. He's likely on the northern frontier, surrounded by fog, disease, and barbarians who want to take his head off. He's tired. He's surrounded by sycophants and politicians. Everything external is chaos. So Book 4 is his answer to that chaos. It is a manual on internal fortitude. It's about building a fortress inside yourself that the world cannot touch. Let's walk through it. The inner citadel. Marcus opens with an idea that feels like it was written for us today. He talks about the concept of a retreat. Think about it. When life gets too loud, too heavy, what do? We say, I need a vacation. We look at property prices in the mountains. We book flights to the beach. We fantasize about a cabin in the woods where no one can email us. We are obsessed with the idea that peace is a place, that if we just move our physical bodies to a quieter coordinate on the map, our minds will settle down. Marcus looks at this impulse and essentially calls it amateur hour. He says, men seek retreats for themselves, houses in the country, seashores, and mountains. But this is altogether a mark of the most common sort of men. Ouch. Why? Because you can take your body to the beach, but you bring your head with you. If your mind is a mess in Rome, it's going to be a mess in the Riviera. You can't outrun your own anxiety. So he proposes a better way, the mental retreat. He writes, nowhere, either with more quiet or more freedom from trouble, does a man retire than into his own soul. This is the concept of the inner citadel. You have to realize that peace isn't a lack of noise. It's a lack of friction within your own judgment. You need to be able to close your eyes, drop into that fortress, and reset instantly. But how? It's not just zoning out. It's an active process. Marcus suggests having a few brief and fundamental maxims ready at hand. Little mental soaps to wash the grime off your brain. You dip into the soul, rinse off the annoyance, and surface again, ready to face the world. He gives us the two most important tools for this kit. First, things do not touch the soul. The traffic jam isn't stressful. Your opinion about the traffic is stressful. The rude email doesn't hurt you. Your judgment that you've been insulted is what hurts. The world is out there, doing its thing, and your soul is in here. The only way the outside gets inside is if you open the door and invite it in. Second, everything is changing. Nothing stands still. That problem that feels permanent, it's evaporating right now. You are changing. The world is changing. The people annoying you are changing. Stop gripping the steering wheel so tight. The car is moving whether you like it or not. The view from above. Once you've secured the inside, Marcus asks you to look outside, but not in the normal way. He wants you to adopt the view from above. Imagine pulling back from the earth, way back. Suddenly, borders disappear. Armies look like ant colonies fighting over a crumb, the city of the world. Marcus was a cosmopolitan in the literal sense, a citizen of the cosmos. He believed the universe is one living organism, one substance, one soul. We are just limbs on the same body. When you see it like that, hurting someone else makes about as much sense as your left hand attacking your right hand. He uses this perspective to crush his own ego. He reminds himself that the earth is just a mere point in space, and you are a tiny speck on that point, and your life, a split second in eternity. This sounds depressing to some people. Oh, I'm insignificant. But for Marcus, this is freedom. If you are tiny, then your problems are tiny. That embarrassment you're obsessing over, it's nothing. That promotion you didn't get, dust. Then he hits us with a brilliant definition of a stranger. He asks, who is a stranger in the world? Is it the person from a foreign land? No. He says a stranger is someone who is surprised by the things that happen in life.
If you have a fig tree, you get figs. If you have a world full of flawed, selfish, confused humans, you get selfishness and confusion. So why are you shocked when someone is rude to you? Why are you surprised when it rains? Why are you angry that a fragile glass broke? If you walk around shocked by the nature of things, this leads right into one of the hardest Stoic pills to swallow, Amor Fati, loving your fate. Marcus drops a heavy line. Everything that happens justly. Now, hold on. He doesn't mean fairly. We know the world isn't fair. Innocent people suffer, bad people get rich. He knows this better than anyone. He's the emperor. He sees the worst of humanity every day. By justly, he means correctly, according to the logic of nature, cause and effect. The universe isn't out to get you. It's just unfolding. He uses a graphic metaphor here. He compares a person who complains about their fate to an abscess on the world, a tumor. Think about what an abscess is. It's a part of the body that has walled itself off, inflamed, rebelling against the rest of the system. When you scream, "Why me?" when you fight against reality, you are separating yourself from the whole. You are becoming a cosmic infection. Instead, Marcus argues for harmony, not resignation, harmony. There is a difference. Resignation is giving up. Harmony is fitting in. It's realizing that you are a piece of a puzzle. You might not like the shape of your piece right now, but it fits. So love your lot, even if it's hard, especially if it's hard, because it's yours. Then Marcus goes after something that plagues every leader, every artist, every human being: the desire to be praised. He strips it down with the emerald analogy. It's beautiful in its simplicity. He asks, does an emerald become worse if no one praises it? Does it lose its green? Does gold become less valuable if people ignore it? Of course not. Beauty is intrinsic. Value is inside the thing itself. So why do we act like our worth depends on the applause? Why do we need the validation? If you do a good job, you did a good job. If you are a good person, you are a good person. The praise of others adds nothing to that reality. It's just noise. And as for being remembered, post-human fame, Marcus laughs at it. He calls it smoke. He looks at the sheer scale of time, the river of oblivion, and points out that everyone who remembers you will be dead soon too, and the people who remember them will die. It's a chain of dying people remembering other dying people. He asks a cutting question. Why do you care about the approval of men who can't even please themselves?
Look at the people you're trying to impress. Look at their lives. They are anxious, fickle, confused, and inconsistent. They don't even like themselves half the time. Why on earth would you hand the keys to your happiness over to them? Essentialism. Do less, better. In the middle of Book 4, we get a masterclass in productivity, but it's not about doing more, it's about doing less. Marcus notices that most of what we say and do is unnecessary. It's fluff, it's busy work, it's social maneuvering. He says, if you would be tranquil, do a few things. But then he corrects himself. Not just a few things, do the necessary things. He gives us a razor to use on our daily lives. Before every action, ask yourself, is this necessary? If the answer is no, cut it. And here is the kicker. You have to apply this to your thoughts, not just your actions, because useless thoughts lead to useless actions. If you spend 3 hours fantasizing about an argument with your boss, you've already wasted the energy. You've cluttered the Citadel. Cut the noise, do less, and because you're doing less, you'll do what's left better. Death and the corpse. We can't talk about Marcus without talking about death. But in Book 4, he's not fearful. He's almost scientific. He looks at death as a natural process, just like birth. It's just nature doing its thing. It's a mystery, sure, but it's not a monster. It's simply the rearrangement of elements. You were stardust before, you're a person now. You'll be soil later. It's all the same stuff, just different forms. But he does give us a haunting image to keep us humble. He quotes Epictetus, the slave philosopher. You are a little soul carrying around a corpse. That is your reality. You are a spark of consciousness trapped in a dying animal. You are fragile. You are temporary. This isn't meant to scare you into paralysis. It's meant to wake you up. You don't have time to be petty. You don't have time to be fake. You are a dying thing. Act like it. Focus on what matters.
The ruling faculty. Finally, Marcus talks about the hegemonicon, the ruling faculty, the part of your mind that decides. He describes the unexamined life as being a puppet. We are jerked around by strings of desire, strings of fear, strings of anger. Someone insults you, jerk, the string pulls, and you get angry. You see something shiny, jerk, the string pulls, and you crave it. Marcus demands that we cut the strings. You have to wake up. You have to sober up, as he puts it. Most people are sleepwalking through life, reacting to everything. The Stoic uses their ruling faculty to pause, to look at the impulse and say, no, I'm not going to follow that. You need mental independence. You need to rely on your own judgment, your own values, not the opinions of the crowd. Closing thoughts. Book 4 ends with a call to simplicity. After all the cosmic viewpoints, after the analysis of death and fame, after the mental discipline, the advice is surprisingly simple. Be simple and good. It's almost anticlimactic, isn't it? But that's the point. The result of all this deep thinking shouldn't be a complex, arrogant philosopher who speaks in riddles. The result should be a good man, a simple man. Someone who accepts what happens, someone who treats others well, someone who doesn't panic, someone who has a fortress inside them. That is the lesson of Book 4. The world is noisy, you don't have to be. The world is chaotic, you can be still. Build the Citadel. Let's be honest. If you only read one book in the Meditations, make it Book 5. Why? Because Book 5 is where the rubber meets the road. It isn't just high-minded theory about the cosmos. It starts in the most relatable place possible, bed. It starts with the struggle to simply function as a human being. You have to remember, Marcus isn't writing this for an audience.
He's writing this to himself, likely in a freezing tent on the Danube frontier, surrounded by war, plague, and people who want things from him. He's exhausted. He's burnt out. And Book 5 is his pep talk. It's his manual for getting through the day without losing his mind or his soul. The Battle of the Bed Sheets. We start right at daybreak, and it's a scene we all know. Marcus writes, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work, as a human being." You can almost hear the groan in his voice. He doesn't want to get up. The blankets are warm, the world outside is cold and demanding. He asks himself, literally, is this what I was created for? To huddle under the blankets and stay warm? And the voice in his head, his lower self, argues back. But it's nicer here. This is the universal human struggle, inertia, the desire for comfort. But Marcus catches himself. He doesn't just force himself up with blind discipline, he uses logic. He looks at nature. He looks at the plants, the birds, the ants, the spiders, the bees. They are all out there, right now, doing their individual tasks. They are putting the world in order. And here he is, the Emperor of Rome, the pinnacle of evolution, refusing to do his part. He asks himself a hard question. Don't you love your nature? If you loved your nature, if you loved what you were made for, you'd want to do the work. Architects love building. Artists love painting. They forget to eat and sleep because they are so consumed by the work. But Marcus realizes that when he stays in bed, he loves his own comfort more than his potential. He has to reframe the day. He isn't rising to be annoyed by politicians. He is rising to do the work of a human being. He's part of a massive moving ecosystem, and if he stops, he fails his purpose. So he gets up. The vine and the ledger. Once he's up, he has to deal with people, and Marcus knows that people can be draining. But in Book 5, he outlines a beautiful way to interact with the world that saves you from bitterness. It's about how we give. We all know that person who does you a favor and then waits. They're keeping score. They have a mental ledger. I did this for you, so now you owe me. Marcus calls this the usury of favors. It's exhausting because it turns every interaction into a debt transaction. He says we need to be like a vine that produces grapes. Think about it. A vine doesn't make a production out of bearing fruit. It doesn't ask for a ticket. It doesn't demand applause. It just produces the grapes because that is what a vine does. And once it's done, it moves on to produce the next cluster. Be like the vine. Be like the horse that runs the race or the dog that tracks the scent. Do your good deed and then move on to the next one without looking back to see if anyone noticed. This is unconscious virtue. It's getting to a point where doing the right thing is as natural as breathing. If you are breathing correctly, you don't ask for a reward. You just take the next breath. He takes this a step further with integrity. He talks about the straightforward man. You know when someone is faking it, when they use that wolfish friendship, smiles that don't reach the eyes, flattery that feels slimy. Marcus hates that. He says honesty should be like a scent. If a person is truly honest, you should be able to smell it on them as soon as they walk in the room. It should be obvious. There's no need for oaths or elaborate promises. If you are real, people will know. If you have to shout about how honest you are, you're probably lying. The die of the mind. So we're out of bed and we're trying to be good people, but the world is chaotic. How do we keep our head straight? Marcus drops one of the most powerful psychological insights in the whole book here. The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. Read that again. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. If you constantly dwell on how unfair life is, how annoying your boss is, or how much you want revenge, your soul turns a dark, bitter color. You become that person. You aren't just thinking angry thoughts, you are becoming anger. But the reverse is true. If you focus on principles, on nature, on the good you can do, your mind becomes dyed with those colors. He gives us a practical exercise for this. He calls it the self-audit. Throughout the day, stop and ask yourself, what is my soul doing right now? It's a check-in. Is my soul acting like a child? Like a tyrant? Is it afraid? Is it jealous? By catching yourself in the moment, you can scrub the dye out before it sets. You can choose to wipe away the impression. He says, I can choose not to be harmed. This is the discipline of the ruling faculty. External things, a rude comment, a lost wallet, a traffic jam, those things cannot touch your soul. They are outside. They just sit there, existing. The only thing that hurts you is your opinion about them. If you stop telling yourself this is a disaster, then it ceases to be a disaster. It just is.
But what about the big stuff? What about illness, death, or total failure? Marcus uses a metaphor here that is surprisingly comforting. He talks about a doctor prescribing medicine. When a doctor tells you to take bitter medicine, or to undergo a painful surgery, or to soak in a cold bath, you do it. Why? Because you trust it's for your health. You might not like the taste, but you accept it because you want to get better. Marcus says we should look at fate the same way.
When the universe prescribes you a heavy cold, or a financial loss, or a difficult relationship, treat it like the doctor's orders. The universe is a living organism. It knows what it's doing. This hardship is a prescription for the health of the whole, and because you are a part of the whole, it's necessary. He plays with the Greek words meros, a part, and melos, a limb. If you see yourself just as a part, meros, you are separate. You might resent what happens to you. But if you see yourself as a limb, melos, of the organic unity of humanity, then you realize that what is good for the body must be endurable for the limb. You fit in. You have a function. Accepting your fate isn't just about gritty endurance. It's about loving the fact that you are part of something bigger. It's trusting the weaver who wove your thread into the tapestry. The obstacle as fuel. Now we get to the heavy hitter. This might be the most famous concept in Stoicism, and it sits right here in Book 5. Marcus is thinking about people who try to stop him. Enemies, obstructionists, difficult people. They can stop his actions. They can block his path. But, he realizes, they cannot block his mind. He writes, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This is not just a catchy slogan. It's a mechanism for survival. Here is how it works. You have a goal. A boulder falls in your path. The non-Stoic says, my path is blocked. I failed. The Stoic says, okay, the path of walking is blocked, but a new path has opened, the path of climbing, or the path of patience, or the path of resourcefulness. The obstacle didn't ruin the plan. The obstacle is the plan. Every time something goes wrong, it gives you an opportunity to practice a virtue you couldn't have practiced otherwise. If traffic is terrible, you can't practice driving fast, but you can practice patience. If you get fired, you can't practice working, but you can practice resilience. You can't be defeated because everything that happens is just fuel for the fire. You are the fire. You throw a rock into a fire, the fire doesn't get hurt. It swallows the rock and gets hotter. As we near the end of the book, Marcus zooms out. He needs to remind himself of how small this all is. He thinks about fame. He thinks about all the people who want to be remembered after they die. He finds it ridiculous. The people who remember you will die too, he says, and the people who remember them will die. It's all a flicker in the vastness of infinity before and infinity after. Why are we so obsessed with the praise of people who don't even know themselves? It's like being proud that a madman clapped for you. He tells himself to look at the stars, to watch their courses, to see the vast movements of time. When you look at the stars, you wash off the mud of life below. You realize that your petty squabbles, your reputation, your bank account, it's all dust. What matters isn't what people say about you in 500 years. What matters is acting according to nature right now. The lucky man. And this brings us to the closing thought of Book 5. It's a redefinition of luck. We usually think a lucky man is someone who won the lottery, or was born into royalty, or everything just goes their way. Marcus flips it. He says, a lucky man is one who has assigned himself a good lot. Catch that? You don't get a good lot. You assign it to yourself. And what is a good lot? It isn't money. It isn't fame. A good lot is a good inclination of the soul, good impulses, and good actions. If you have a mind that can find peace and chaos, if you have hands that help others like the vine produces grapes, and if you have a will that accepts every obstacle as fuel, you are the luckiest person on earth. Nobody can take that luck away from you. You created it. So wake up, throw off the blankets. You have work to do as a human being. You know that feeling when you look at something, a fancy car, a celebrity, a gourmet meal, and you just get overwhelmed by the prestige of it? You feel small. You feel like you need that thing to be happy. Marcus Aurelius deals with that. But he doesn't deal with it by telling himself, I'm good enough. No, he grabs a scalpel. He cuts that fancy thing open and shows you exactly what it is made of. Welcome to Book 6 of Meditations. If there is a central theme to this chapter, it's demystification. It is about taking the scary, the glamorous, or the annoying things in life and looking at them under a microscope until they stop having power over you. Let's start with one of the most famous, visceral ideas in the whole book. We call it the discipline of perception. Marcus is the emperor of Rome. He eats at the best banquets in the world. He wears the most expensive clothes. He is surrounded by luxury that most of us can't even dream of. And he looks at a plate of roasted pork, maybe glazed with honey, prepared by a master chef, and he forces himself to have a very specific thought. He says to himself, "This is the dead body of a pig." He looks at his cup of Falernian wine, the vintage stuff, worth a fortune, and says, "This is just some grape juice that has gone through a fermentation process." He looks at his own royal robes. The purple dye on the wool was the ultimate status symbol of the ancient world. It was incredibly expensive, made from the blood of shellfish. To wear purple was to be power. And Marcus looks at his robe and says, "This is sheep's wool, dyed in the blood of a shellfish." Why does he do this? Is he depressed? Is he trying to ruin dinner? No, he's doing something brilliant. He is stripping away the legend. He calls it laying things bare. He says we have to strip away the coating that makes things seem impressive. We do this today. You see a brand new smartphone. It looks sleek, magical, expensive. But strip it down. It's glass, it's metal, it's silicon dug out of the ground. It will break. It will be obsolete in 2 years. It's just a tool. Marcus tells us that when we overvalue things, we become slaves to them. We get arrogant when we have them, and we get crushed when we lose them. But if you practice this physical definition, if you describe things exactly as they are, without the emotional story attached, you become free. The grape juice can't control you. The sheep's wool can't make you a better person. It's a brutal exercise, but it clears your vision. Once you've stripped away the illusions of the material world, Marcus zooms out, way out, In Book 6, he spends a lot of time thinking about the nature of the universe. Now, don't tune out. This isn't boring physics. This is about belonging. Marcus views the universe as one single living organism. He calls it the all-embracing. Imagine a giant body where you are just a single cell. A cell in your finger doesn't fight against a cell in your heart. They work together. They share the same soul. He believes that matter, the stuff we are made of, is docile. It's obedient. It yields to reason. The universe isn't chaotic or evil. It has a logic to it, a flow. And because it flows, it changes. We are terrified of change. We hate it. We want things to stay the same. We want to be young forever. We want our bank accounts to only go up. Marcus looks at change and laughs. He says, look at the process. Things come into existence, they do their job, and they fade away to make room for new things. He calls death and birth mere administrative changes. Think about that. Administrative changes, like filing paperwork. He says that just as you were changed from a seed into a baby and a baby into a man, you will eventually change into something else. The atoms that make you up right now, they are borrowed. The universe is going to ask for them back so it can make a tree, or a star, or a new generation of people. So why be afraid? It's just the cycle. He has this beautiful, somewhat terrifying idea about cooperation. He says that everyone is working toward the cosmic plan. Even the people who are asleep. Even the people who are fighting against the universe. The critic, the villain, the lazy person. They are all unknowingly playing their part in the tragedy or the comedy of life. He asks, which role are you going to play? Are you going to be the person who cooperates consciously, who understands the plan and works with it? Or are you going to be the person who has to be dragged along, kicking and screaming, but still ends up at the same destination anyway? The universe moves forward. You can move with it, or you can be dragged by it, but you cannot stop it. Now, this brings us to the hard part, other people. If we are all part of one big organism, why are people so annoying? Book 6 gives us one of the absolute best lines in the history of Stoicism. If you tattoo anything on your brain from this chapter, let it be this. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Just let that sit there for a second. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Someone lies to you at work. Someone betrays you. What is your first instinct? To get even? To scream? To lie back? To hurt them? Stop. If you do that, you become them. You let their bad behavior infect your character. You have just doubled the amount of evil in the world. They did something bad, and now you are doing something bad. The only way to truly win, the only real victory, is to remain yourself, to keep your integrity. He talks about tolerance. He reminds himself that people act according to their own internal logic, even when they are wrong, even when they are being jerks. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to be a mistake-making idiot today. They think they are right. They think they are doing what is best for them. They are just confused. They are operating on bad data. So don't be angry. Be a teacher. Show them the error, and if they won't listen, well, that's on them. There is a humility here too. Marcus says we have to value truth over being right. We all know people who would rather burn the house down than admit they were wrong. Marcus says, if anyone can prove to me that I'm wrong, I will gladly change. Why? Because the truth doesn't hurt. The truth is what heals. What hurts is persisting in self-deception and ignorance. He finds joy not in winning arguments, but in social action. He says the delight of life is to move from one unselfish act to another, with God in mind. That's the rhythm of a good life. Not one party to another, not one promotion to another. one act of kindness to another. That is where the juice is. But there is a specific danger for Marcus. He isn't just a philosopher. He is the emperor. He has absolute power. In Book 6, he gives himself a very specific warning. He warns himself against Caesarism. He says, "Take care that you are not Caesarified. Don't get dyed by the purple." Remember the wool and the shellfish blood? He uses that metaphor again. He's afraid that the role of emperor will stain his soul like dye stains wool. He's afraid he will become arrogant, demanding, and fake. He wants to keep the Antonine ideal. This refers to his predecessor, Antoninus Pius, a man Marcus admired deeply for his mildness and hard work. He tells himself, "Be simple, be good, be serious, be a friend of justice. Reverence the gods and save men." It's a desperate plea to himself. Don't let the power go to your head. He reminds himself of the shortness of time. He says, "Do it now. Be the man philosophy wants you to be now, before it's too late, because you don't know when the end is coming." There is this urgency in Book 6. He knows he is slipping. He knows the empire is crumbling around the edges. He knows he is getting old. He doesn't have time to be a jerk. He doesn't have time to be a tyrant. He only has time to be a good man. And if you think, well, at least I'll be remembered, Marcus has some bad news for you. Book 6 is ruthless about fame and legacy. He looks at the applause of the crowd, the roar of the Colosseum, the praise of the Senate, and he calls it the clacking of tongues. Just noise. That's all it is. Muscles twitching in a throat. Why do we care so much about being praised by people who don't even like themselves? He looks at the river of time. He sees the past as this infinite abyss behind us, and the future as an infinite abyss ahead of us. And right in the middle, a tiny, tiny slice of light. That's your life. He says, look at how quickly things vanish. People, cities, empires, they fall into the abyss of the past and are forgotten. Even if people remember you, so what? The people who remember you are going to die too, and the people who remember them will die. It's the vanity of posthumous fame. He basically says, you will be dead. You won't hear the speeches. You won't see the statues. It literally does not matter. So if fame is worthless and luxury is just dead birds and sheep's wool, what is left? What is actually worth doing? The inner citadel. Marcus comes back to the ruling faculty, your mind. He says things cannot touch the mind. This is a core Stoic concept, but he hammers it home here. If someone insults you, that is a sound wave hitting your ear. It's physical, but the feeling of being insulted, that happens in your mind, and you control the mind. It is in your power to have no opinion about a thing and not to be disturbed in your soul. Things don't have the power to force you to judge them. You can just let them be. He talks about resilience. He uses this medical analogy. When a doctor prescribes you a bitter medicine, you take it because you know it will make you healthy. You might hate the taste, but you trust the doctor. Marcus says we should treat external events the same way. When something bad happens, you get sick, you lose money, your car breaks down, say to yourself, this was prescribed to me. Prescribed by whom? By the universe, by the nature of the whole. It was prescribed to make your character stronger. It is part of the treatment plan for your soul. He calls this radical acceptance. Don't just tolerate it. Welcome it. It's for your health. And finally, he tackles the difficulty of life. Sometimes we look at a task, fixing a relationship, learning a skill, enduring a hardship, and we think, this is impossible. I can't do this. Marcus says, check your ego. If a thing is difficult to be accomplished by yourself, do not think that it is impossible for man. He says, look around. Has anyone else ever done this? Has anyone else ever endured the loss of a child? Has anyone else ever survived a war?
Has anyone else ever mastered this skill? If it is humanly possible, then it is within your reach. Don't assume you are too weak. Don't assume the world is too hard. If a human can do it, you can do it. So that is book 6. It's a book that starts by looking at a grape and ends by looking at eternity.
Here we are, book 7. If the previous books were about setting the ground rules, book 7 is where the rubber meets the road. It feels denser, more urgent. Marcus isn't just listing theories anymore. He's trying to keep his head above water. You get the sense he's tired, maybe a little worn down by the sheer weight of running an empire and dealing with, well, people. So let's look at how he keeps himself sane. The discipline of the mind. It starts with what he calls the ruling faculty. That's the driver's seat of your consciousness. Marcus notices something dangerous. Our principles, the truths we hold dear, they have a shelf life. They expire. You don't just learn a life lesson once and keep it forever. It fades, like a fire that burns down to embers. He says you have to constantly fan those flames. You have to revive your maxims. You have to look at the things you believe and ask, is this still true? Because if you don't, the fog sets in. And the biggest source of that fog? Imagination. Marcus is surprisingly harsh on imagination here. He says, wipe out imagination. Stop the internal monologue. You know that voice? The one that takes a simple event, like someone looking at you funny, and spins it into a 3-act tragedy about how everyone hates you and your career is over? That's what he wants to kill. He's telling us to stop adding to the narrative. Stick to the facts. Stick to the present. The mind, the rational soul, is self-sufficient. It doesn't need the world to applaud it to be okay. It just needs to do the right thing. If you're acting justly, your mind is a fortress. It's content. And this bleeds into something very physical for him. He talks about the face. He says, look, don't let your inner turmoil warp your face. Don't walk around with that angry face or that stressed out grimace. It's unnatural. If your mind is calm, your face should be too. If you look like a storm cloud, you've already lost the battle inside. Now, zoom out, way out. This is where book 7 gets almost spiritual. Marcus talks about sympatheia. It's this beautiful idea that all things are woven together. He looks at the universe and sees a web, a sacred bond. Nothing is isolated. The bird, the tree, the stone, the emperor, it's all part of one substance, one world, one God, one law. It sounds nice, right? We are all one. But Marcus takes it a step further with a distinction that is honestly brilliant. It's a linguistic trick in Greek, but it hits hard in English. He asks, are you a part of the system or are you a limb? Think about that. If you're just a part, you're like a spare screw in a drawer. You belong to the set, sure, but you don't really feel for the other screws. You do your job, but you're separate. But if you are a limb, like a hand or a foot on a body, then the pain of the other parts is your pain. You can't function without them. You don't help others because it's nice. You help them because if the foot gets gangrene, the hand is in trouble. Marcus is challenging himself here. He's saying, don't just tolerate people. Don't just be a part of society. Be a limb. Feel the connection. And to do that, you need the view from above. He tells us to look at the stars, look at the vastness of time. When you see how small the Earth is, just a tiny speck of dust in the cosmos, your petty arguments with your neighbor seem ridiculous. It's the ultimate reality check. The nature of change. But then the anxiety creeps back in. Change. We hate change. We want things to stay the way they are, especially when they're good. But Marcus looks at nature and shakes his head. He uses the metaphor of wax. Nature takes a lump of wax and molds it into a horse. Then it melts the horse down and molds it into a tree. Then a man. Then a ghost. Is the wax hurt when it stops being a horse? No. Is it hurt when it melts? No. It's just changing states. He uses an even more visceral example, digestion. He says, look, you like eating, right? But for the food to nourish you, it has to change. It has to be destroyed, broken down, and turned into blood and muscle. If the food stayed a pristine apple in your stomach forever, you'd starve. Change isn't just necessary, it's fuel.
And this leads him to the river of time. He's obsessed with how fast the present vanishes. It's gone before you can even name it. The past is infinite, the future is unknown, and we are standing on this razor's edge called now. So why worry? Why cling to things? He briefly touches on the big physics debate of his time, atoms versus providence. Is the universe just random atoms crashing into each other, or is there a plan, providence? Marcus admits he doesn't know for sure, though he leans toward providence, but he decides it doesn't matter. Even if it is just random atoms, chaos, and dust, you still have to wake up and do your job. You still have to be a decent person. The physics doesn't change the ethics. Dealing with people. Speaking of ethics, let's talk about people, because people are difficult. Book 7 has some of the most practical advice on social friction you'll ever read. First, tolerance. He says it is a man's peculiar duty to love even those who get it wrong. And that word peculiar is interesting. It means it's special to us. Dogs don't have to love the dog that bites them. We do. Why? Because of motivation. Marcus believes that no one wakes up and thinks, I'm going to be evil today. They do bad things because they are confused, they are ignorant. They think what they're doing is good, or necessary, or justified. So when someone insults you or cuts you off in traffic, don't get mad. Pity them. They're like a blind man stumbling into you. You don't get angry at a blind man for stepping on your foot, do you? You realize he just can't see. And then, the wrestler. This is one of my favorite metaphors in the whole book. He says, the art of life is more like wrestling than dancing. Think about dancing. It's choreographed, it's smooth, you know the steps, you expect the partner to catch you. That's not life. Life is wrestling. You have to stand there, knees bent, ready for a sudden attack. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know when they're going to try to throw you. You have to be poised. But, and this is key, you don't have to be angry at the wrestler. When you're sparring with someone and they headbutt you by accident, or they grapple you hard, you don't scream, you traitor. You just guard yourself. You keep your distance. You watch them. Marcus says to treat annoying people like that sparring partner. Don't resent them. Just keep your guard up and don't let them knock you over. And what about the people who do like you? The fame? The legacy? Marcus looks at Alexander the Great. Here was a man who conquered the known world, a god among men. And here was his mule driver, just a guy hauling supplies. Guess what happened? They both died. And in death, they were reduced to the exact same thing. Either their souls went back to the same seminal reason of the universe, or their bodies broke down into the same pile of atoms. Death is the great equalizer. It doesn't care about your resume.
He talks about the shortness of memory. It's brutal. He says, look at how quickly we forget the people who died 10 years ago. And look at how quickly the people who are praising you right now will die too. It's a cycle of oblivion. The one who praises and the one who is praised, both are forgotten. So, if fame is smoke, what's left? True happiness. And true happiness, he says, is about your action. It's not about the applause. If an emerald is beautiful, does it get more beautiful if you praise it? Does it get less beautiful if you insult it? No, it just is. Be like the emerald. Keep your color. But what if life hurts? Physically hurts? Marcus lived with chronic pain. He was frail, he had stomach issues. He probably spent a lot of book 7 in physical discomfort. He has a mental hack for this. He separates the mind from the sensation. He says, okay, the body hurts. Let the body complain. Let the body groan if it has to. But don't let the mind join in. The mind doesn't have to say, this is a tragedy. The mind can just say, this is a sensation. It's sharp, it's throbbing, but don't label it evil. He uses a logical argument that might seem cold, but it's helpful. He says pain has limits. If the pain is unbearable, it will kill you. And if you're dead, you feel no pain. Problem solved. If the pain is bearable, well, bear it. You're still here, aren't you? It's binary. It's either going to end you or you can handle it. There is no third option where it lasts forever and is impossible to handle. And finally, he brings back the idea of the obstacle is the way. Even pain, even hindrance is just fuel. It's another opportunity to practice virtue, to practice patience, endurance, and courage. The core lessons. So how do we wrap up Book 7? There are a few key phrases here that you should tattoo on your brain.
Dig within. Don't look for happiness in the palace, in the Senate, in the wine, in the applause. The fountain of good is inside you, but it only bubbles up if you keep digging. It's active work. Straight, not straightened. Don't be the person who needs a coach, a therapist, and an emperor to keep you on the right path. Be naturally upright. Stand up on your own 2 feet. And finally, the acceptance of death. Marcus doesn't view death as a tragedy. He views it like ripeness, like an olive falling off the tree. When the olive falls, it shouldn't curse the branch that held it. It should bless the tree for giving it life and bless the earth for catching it. That's the vibe of Book 7. It's about being a wrestler. It's about being a limb of the universe. It's about standing straight, even when the world is trying to bend you, and knowing that no matter what happens, pain, fame, or death, your mind is yours to keep. You know, there comes a moment in everyone's life, usually around middle age, but it can hit you sooner, where you have to look in the mirror and admit that you are not going to be an astronaut. You aren't going to be a rock star. You aren't going to read every book in the Library of Congress. Marcus Aurelius hits that wall hard in Book 8, and honestly, it is one of the most refreshing openings in the entire text, the reality of your situation. It is too late to have a reputation as a philosopher. It is too late to be a scholar. He looks at his life, the wars, the politics, the exhausting bureaucracy of being the Emperor of Rome, or Caesar as he calls it, and he realizes that life has gotten in the way of his study. He's not going to be Plato. He's not going to be this perfect, enlightened sage who sits in a garden discussing forms. He's a guy with a job, a messy, violent, demanding job. He says quite literally, you have been seen, by yourself and by others, as far from philosophy. That hurts, right? Admitting that the dream version of yourself is dead. But Marcus flips it. He says this realization isn't sad, it's liberating. Because if you can't be a scholar, what's left? Being a good man. He realizes he doesn't need to read another book to know how to be humble. He doesn't need a degree to practice temperance. He says, let go of the desire to be a scholar. Just drop it. It's heavy. It's vanity. Instead, focus entirely on being good now. Not reading about it, being it. So if you're sitting there feeling guilty that you haven't mastered a new language, or you haven't read the classics, Marcus is telling you to relax. That ship has sailed. Let it go. You have a much more important job, dealing with the reality in front of you, the view from above and objectivity. So how do we do that? How do we deal with reality? Marcus goes back to one of his favorite tools. We call it the view from above, or simply objective seeing. We walk around with these masks on everything. We see a promotion or an insult or a luxury item. We attach all these stories to objects. Marcus says, strip the mask off. He wants you to look at a thing and ask, what is this in and of itself? When you look at a fancy robe, it's just sheep's wool dyed with shellfish blood. When you look at a vintage wine, it's fermented grape juice. When you look at a stressful meeting, it's just people making noises with their mouths in a room. Why does he do this? Is he a killjoy? No, he does it to kill the distraction. When you see things for what they biologically and physically are, they lose their power over you. They stop being scary, and they stop being seductive. You stop worshiping the material world because you realize it's just stuff, dust and atoms. And speaking of dust, Book 8 has this haunting section, probably one of the most beautiful and melancholy parts of the whole diary. It's often called the Ubi Sunt meditation. That's Latin for, where are they? Marcus sits down and thinks about the court of Augustus. Augustus was the first emperor, the big one, the legend. Marcus imagines that court, the power, the armies, the advisors, the philosophers, the priests, the family drama. And he asks, where are they now? Gone, all of them. Not just dead, but erased. He lists them out. He thinks about the famous ancestors, the brilliant minds. He thinks about the people who sat by their deathbeds, the mourners. He realizes that even the people who mourned the dead are now dead. It's a cascade of oblivion. It makes you feel small, but that's the point. Marcus is trying to cure himself of the desire for posthumous fame. We all want to be remembered, right? We want to leave a legacy. Marcus looks at that desire and laughs. He says it's foolish. Striving for fame is like trying to hold on to a handful of water. The people you want to remember you, they're going to die too. And the people who come after them, they'll die too. It's just waves crashing on a beach, one after another, erasing the sand. So, if greatness is transient and fame is a joke, what matters? The connectedness of humanity. This brings us to the severed limb metaphor. This is crucial because people think Stoics are lonely, unfeeling robots. They aren't. Marcus describes a hand or a foot that has been cut off from the body. It's lying there, useless, rotting. It has lost its purpose because its purpose was to be part of the whole. He says that when you get angry at society, when you isolate yourself, when you resent your neighbor or run away from your duties, you are making yourself that severed limb. You are cutting yourself off from nature. You become an outcast in the universe. But, and this is the beautiful part, he says humans have a superpower that limbs don't have. If you cut off a hand, it can't reattach itself, game over. But a human being can come back. He calls it the grace of the divine. You can be antisocial, you can be a jerk, you can isolate yourself. But the moment you choose to reconnect, to care about people again, to work for the common good, you are grafted back onto the whole. You become alive again. So repentance isn't about groveling, it's about reattachment.
It's about realizing you don't make sense on your own.
Now, reconnecting is hard because people are difficult. They lie, they cheat, they annoy us. Marcus spends a lot of time in Book 8 telling himself how to handle sinners or wrongdoers. He has this fascinating perspective. He who sins, sins against himself. When someone lies to you, your instinct is to feel hurt. They damaged me. Marcus says, no, they didn't damage you. They damaged their own integrity. They damaged their own soul.
They are the victim of their own bad behavior. It's like watching someone punch themselves in the face. You wouldn't be angry at them, you'd pity them. He says, let them kill me, but they cannot force me to feel otherwise. You keep your integrity. You keep your inner citadel safe. Managing impressions and the inner citadel. This leads us right into the core mechanic of Stoicism, managing impressions. Marcus uses a phrase, erase the fancy. Some translations say, wipe away the imagination. Here is what happens. You get a rude email. That is the event. That is the fact. But then your mind starts writing a novel. They hate me. I'm going to get fired. I'll lose my house. I'm a failure.
That story, that is the fancy. That is the imagination running wild. Marcus says, stop it, cut it off. Confine pain to the flesh or to the event itself. Don't let it leak into your mind. Distinguish between what actually happened and the judgment you are adding to it. He talks about the sphere of the soul. He imagines the soul as this perfectly round, illuminated sphere. When we get greedy or angry or scared, the sphere gets warped. It loses its shape. But when we stick to the truth, just the facts, no drama, the sphere shines with light. It illuminates everything around it. Practical exercises for the present moment. But how do you keep that sphere round when life is overwhelming? Marcus gives us a very practical exercise. He says, do not let your imagination view life as a whole. This is where our anxiety comes from. We look at the mortgage and the aging parents and the career path and the health issues, and we pile them all up into one giant mountain of future, and it crushes us. Stop. Look at this moment, just this one. Dissect the current difficulty. Ask yourself, what is unbearable about this specific split second? Usually the answer is nothing. You can handle this second. You can handle the next second. You just can't handle 10 years of seconds all at once. So confine yourself to the present. The past is dead. The future is a hallucination. You only have to survive right now. Okay, so we are living in the now. We are calm. Now what? We have to work. Marcus is obsessed with duty in Book 8. He wakes up and reminds himself, I have work to do as a human being. This isn't about your job title. It's not about being an emperor or an accountant. It's about the work of a human, which is social connection and rational action. He says, no action should be done without an aim. Don't just drift. Don't just scroll. Do things that help the hive. He has this blunt line, men exist for the sake of one another. And then he gives you two choices, teach them or bear with them. That's it. Those are your options. If someone is being an idiot, try to teach them. If they won't learn, tolerate them. Getting angry isn't on the list. He gives us a beautiful image for this social duty, the sun. He says the mind should be like sunlight. Think about how the sun works. It pours itself out in every direction. It doesn't get exhausted. It doesn't hold back. When sunlight hits an obstacle, like a wall, it doesn't violently smash against it. It doesn't get angry. It just stops. It rests there, and it illuminates whatever it touches. Be like that. Pour yourself out towards other people. If they block you, fine. Just rest there. Illuminate them if they are willing. If not, you haven't lost anything. You're still shining. The physics of life and death. And finally, we have to talk about the end. Marcus is constantly looking at the physics of things. He looks at death and says, it's just dissolution. You are made of elements: carbon, water, air. When you die, those elements just go back to where they came from. Nature doesn't lose anything. It's a closed system. It recycles matter and it recycles time. He uses the projectile metaphor. I love this one. He says, throw a stone into the air. Does the stone gain anything by going up? No. Does it lose anything by coming down? No. The stone is the stone. You are the stone. You were thrown up into existence for a brief moment. That's your life. Eventually, gravity will pull you back down. That's your death. Going up wasn't good. Coming down isn't bad. It's just the arc. It's just physics. There is no need to be afraid of landing. You came from the earth. You go back to the earth. This leads to the ultimate conclusion of Book 8, Acceptance, Amor Fati, loving your fate. There is a sense of surrender here, but not a weak surrender, a strong one. Marcus says that whatever happens to you, whatever joy, whatever tragedy, was prepared for you from the beginning of time. The thread of cause and effect has been spinning for billions of years just to arrive at this moment. To fight it is insane. To blame the gods or nature is irrational. He says to accept the portion assigned to you. Just like a doctor prescribes a medicine, nature prescribes an illness or a loss or a challenge. You take the medicine because it's for your health. You accept the challenge because it's for the health of the universe. So find pleasure in doing what your nature requires. Even if things are going wrong, even if the stone is falling, you can still be a good person. You can still be kind. You can still be brave. And really, that's the only thing that was ever under your control anyway. So, here is what I want you to do next. Take a look at something that is stressing you out right now. Just one thing. And try the view from above on it. Describe it to yourself using only physical, objective facts. No adjectives. No terrible or annoying. Just the atoms. Just the event. See if you can shrink it down to size. Because remember, it's just a stone thrown in the air. We are getting into the deep end now. Book 9. If you read closely, you can almost feel the exhaustion in this one. This isn't a young man theorizing about life. This is a man who has seen war, plague, betrayal, and the endless, grinding machinery of the Roman Empire. And yet, he's not bitter. Well, maybe he's tempted to be, but he's fighting it. He is clawing his way back to sanity. Book 9 is where Marcus gets theological, but don't let that word scare you. He isn't talking about angels on clouds. He's talking about the architecture of reality. He starts with a heavy hitter, injustice. The theology of injustice. Marcus opens with a bold claim: injustice is blasphemy. Now, that sounds religious, right? But follow his logic. He says that universal nature has made rational beings, that's us, for one another. We are pack animals. We are built to help each other, to cooperate like rows of teeth, upper and lower. So when you act unjustly, when you hurt someone or rip them off or treat them like an object, you aren't just being a jerk. You are committing a sin against nature itself. You are violating the design of the universe. Think about it. If the universe is a single living organism, which is how the Stoics saw it, and we are all cells in that body, then attacking another person is like your left hand attacking your right hand. It's not aggression, it's self-sabotage. It's a form of rebellion against the system that keeps you alive. And he doesn't stop at physical violence. He goes after lying. This is fascinating. He calls lying a discord with truth, but he capitalizes truth. To Marcus, nature is truth. Reality is what actually happens. When you lie, you are creating a fake reality. You are trying to engage in a war with what is.
He distinguishes between two types of liars. There's the person who lies involuntarily. Maybe they're just ignorant. He says they are out of tune with nature, like a discordant note in a symphony. They are clumsy. But then there's the person who lies on purpose. That person, they are challenging the gods. They are trying to split reality in two, and that creates a fracture in their own soul. Then he pivots to something that hits a little closer to home for most of us: pleasure and pain. Most of us operate on a simple switch. Pleasure is good, pain is bad. Marcus says, stop. That's wrong. If you think pleasure is good and pain is evil, you are going to end up blaming God. You're going to look at the world, see a bad person winning the lottery and a good person getting cancer, and you're going to scream, "This is unfair. The universe is broken." But Marcus argues that nature distributes pleasure and pain indifferently. They aren't moral categories. They are just things that happen. If you chase pleasure as if it's the ultimate good, you are setting yourself up to be angry at reality. And being angry at reality is, again, a form of impiety. It's throwing a tantrum because the universe isn't following your script. The Stoic attitude toward death. You can't talk about Marcus Aurelius without talking about death. He brings it up constantly. But in Book 9, he tries to frame it differently. He tries to take the horror out of it by making it clinical. He says, look, death is just a natural operation. It's like digestion. It's like growing up. It's like waking up. It is a change of state. He asks us to look at our own lives. You were an infant. That infant is gone. It died to become a child. The child died to become a teenager. The teenager died to become an adult. We are dying all the time. Every transition is a little death. The final one is just the cessation of sense and impulse. The puppet strings are cut. The mind goes quiet. That's it. Why is that terrifying? He uses this beautiful, earthy analogy of ripeness. Think of an olive on a tree. It hangs there all season, soaking up the sun, growing fat and oily. When it falls, it shouldn't fall screaming. It should fall blessing the tree that bore it and the earth that receives it. That is how we should go, not dragged kicking and screaming, but dropping because we are ripe, leaving life without bitterness. There is a dignity in that. It's accepting that your season is done. Sin and the self. There is a line in this book that I think might be the most important sentence in the whole text. He who does wrong to himself. We usually think that if I steal your wallet, I win and you lose. I have the cash, you have the headache. Marcus says, no, you don't understand. When I steal your wallet, I degrade my own character. I make myself a thief. I damage my own ruling faculty. I have turned myself into something lesser. The victim? They just lost some money. That's external. But the perpetrator? They lost their integrity. That's internal. That is the real damage. So injustice is a form of self-harm. You are slashing your own tires. And then he catches us on a technicality. It's not just what you do, it's what you don't do. Injustice through omission. This is tough. It's easy to say, I'm a good person. I never hit anyone. I never stole. Marcus asks, yeah, but did you stand by while someone else did? Did you stay silent when you should have spoken? Not doing is also a choice. If the community needs you and you hide, that is injustice. If you see the truth and you don't defend it, that is injustice. You can destroy your soul just by sitting on the couch and doing absolutely nothing. But before you get too judgmental of others who do these things, he pulls you back. He reminds us of the intellectual source of wrongdoing, ignorance. People don't wake up and say, "I want to be evil today." They wake up thinking, "I want to be happy," or "I want to be safe." They just have a twisted idea of how to get there. They think stealing the money will make them happy. They are confused about what is good. So don't hate them. Pity them. They are like blind people stumbling into furniture. You don't get mad at the blind man for stepping on your foot. So how do we fix this? How do we stop stumbling? We have to discipline the ruling faculty, the mind. Marcus talks about wiping out fancy. The word he uses refers to impressions, imagination, the stories we tell ourselves. Here is the trick. Separate the event from the interpretation. The event? My boss yelled at me. The interpretation? My boss hates me, I'm going to get fired, I'm a loser, and I'll die alone under a bridge. Stop. Cut it. Wipe out the fancy. Stick to the first thing. My boss yelled. That is a fact. The rest is you adding drama. The event itself cannot hurt your mind. Only your judgment of the event can hurt you. You have to confine the present moment. Most of our suffering comes from borrowing trouble from the future or replaying trauma from the past. He says, focus on this instant. What is happening right now? Can you bear this exact second? Usually the answer is yes. It's the 10 years of future imaginary suffering that crush you. The external world cannot touch your soul. It can touch your body, your bank account, your reputation, but it cannot force you to be a bad person. It cannot force you to be miserable. That power belongs to you alone. Now let's zoom out, way out. Marcus loves the view from above. He wants us to see the river of time. He looks back at history. He thinks about the court of Augustus, the first emperor. Think about that scene. The pomp, the power, the generals, the wives, the intrigues, the desperate ambition. Where are they now? Dust. All of them. Now look at your own life. Look at the people stressing out about their careers, their likes on social media, their political arguments. It is the exact same scene, just with different costumes. And in a blink of an eye, we will be dust too. He talks about the eternal recurrence. History repeats itself. It's the same play, just a different cast. Once you realize this, you stop taking your own little dramas so seriously. And fame? Forget about it. He is brutal about fame. He says being remembered by posterity is a joke. The people who come after you will be just as foolish and short-lived as the people who are here now. Why do you care what a bunch of ghosts think about you? Loss is nothing else but change. We are terrified of losing things, but the universe is change. That's all it does. If things didn't change, nothing would exist. You wouldn't exist. So stop fighting the flow of the river. This all sounds a bit detached, doesn't it? But Marcus is a Roman. He has a job to do. He has to deal with people. He gives us a very practical flowchart for dealing with difficult people. Teach them or tolerate them. That's it. Those are your options. If someone is acting wrongly, try to show them the error. Explain it. Teach them. But if they won't listen, if they are stubborn, then tolerate them. Don't get angry. Don't get offended. Just accept that this is how they are. He warns us about infection. Not a virus, but an emotional infection. When you see someone grieving, weeping, tearing their hair out, it's natural to feel empathy. But be careful. You can acknowledge their pain without adopting their judgment. You can say, I see you are sad, but don't say to yourself, this is a catastrophe, because if you do, you lose your footing. You fall into the pit with them, and if you are in the pit, you can't help them out. Keep your head above water. Finally, Book 9 is about action. It's about simplicity. He tells himself to be simple, be modest. Don't be a philosopher who wears a special cloak and talks in big words. Just be a good human being. He has a fascinating section on prayer. The Romans were big on praying for stuff. Gods, please save my child. Gods, please let me get that promotion.
Marcus flips it. He says, don't pray to save your child. Pray to not fear losing your child. Don't pray to sleep with that beautiful woman. Pray to remove the lust for her. Don't pray to avoid the bad thing. Pray to have the strength to handle the bad thing. Move the request from the external to the internal. The gods might not grant you the external outcome. That's up to nature. But the internal strength, that is within your power to cultivate. He ends with a nod to Epicurus, a philosopher from a rival school. He tells a story about Epicurus being sick, dying, in pain. And what did Epicurus talk about? Did he complain about his bladder? No. He talked about philosophy. He kept his mind on the higher things, even while his body was breaking down. That is the goal, to be the same person in sickness as you are in health, to be the same person in chaos as you are in calm. And the reward? What do you get for all this hard work? Nothing. Well, nothing external. Marcus says the reward for a good deed is the deed itself. You don't do good to get a thank you. You don't do good to get into heaven. You do good because that is what a rational social being does. A horse runs, a dog hunts, a bee makes honey, and a human does good. That's it. You did your job. Why are you looking around for a cookie? So that is Book 9. It's a call to wake up, to stop fighting reality, to treat others with a kind of distant compassion, and to realize that soon, very soon, we will all be replaced by the next shift of workers in this great factory of the universe. So we might as well do our work well while we are here. We are getting into the deep end now. Book 10. If the earlier books were Marcus Aurelius trying to figure out how the world works, Book 10 is him trying to figure out if he is actually ready to leave it. There is a sense of urgency here. You can feel the clock ticking. He isn't writing for an audience. Remember, he never was. But now he isn't even writing for the future him. He is writing for the man standing right there, in the mud, maybe realizing that he has more road behind him than ahead. It's less about how do I live, and more about have I actually become the thing I claimed to be? The interrogation of the soul. He starts with a confrontation, not with a general or a senator or a difficult family member. He corners himself. He looks into the mirror or into his own soul, and he asks the question that most of us are too scared to ask ourselves at 3 a.m. Will you ever be good? Will you ever be simple? Will you ever be single and naked, showing yourself more clearly than the body that covers you? That hits hard. He's asking, am I done pretending yet? We spend so much of our lives curating a version of ourselves for other people. We want to seem smart, we want to seem successful, we want to seem like good people. Marcus cuts through that. He wants to know if his soul is actually good, or if it's just polite. He talks about cultivating contentment, and this isn't that passive, weak idea of contentment where you just give up. It's an active removal of thirst. Think about how much energy you burn waiting for the world to validate you, waiting for the promotion, the likes, the nod of approval. Marcus basically says, look, if you are still thirsty for that stuff, you are still a slave.
He wants to get to a place where he can say, I have everything I need right here. Not because he's rich, he was the emperor, he had everything, but because his character is solid. If you are still complaining about your circumstances, you aren't ready. You're still a child waiting for your parents to fix the room. The capacity to endure.
But then reality hits. Life is hard. You get sick, people die, you lose money. Marcus looks at suffering with this cold, almost medical logic. And honestly, it's incredibly comforting.
He breaks it down into a binary. It's actually very simple. Pain is either bearable or it's unbearable. If it's bearable, then bear it. Stop complaining. If you can carry the weight, then carry it and shut up about how heavy it is. You were built to carry it. But what if it's unbearable? Well, if it's truly unbearable, it will kill you. And if you die, the pain ends. So either you handle it or it ends you and the suffering stops. In either scenario, there is no reason to panic. It sounds harsh, doesn't it? But think about the anxiety we add to our pain. We get a headache and we think, oh no, this is going to ruin my week. We have a bad breakup and we think, I'll never be happy again. That's the imagination adding weight to the burden. Marcus says, strip that away. Look at the pain itself, just the sensation. Can you endure this specific second of pain? Yes. Okay, then endure the next one. It's habit. It's judgment. If you tell yourself, I am being harmed, you feel harmed. If you tell yourself, this is just sensation, you remain the master of your own mind. The law of the whole versus the part. Now he zooms out. This is a recurring theme, but in Book 10, it feels spiritual. He tackles the idea of identity. We love to think of ourselves as these rugged individuals. I am me and the world is out there. Me against the universe. Marcus thinks that is insanity. He uses the concept of the whole and the part. You are not an isolated atom bouncing around in a void. You are a limb of a giant organism. He actually plays with the Greek words here, shifting from being a part, meros, to being a limb, melos. Why does that letter change matter? A part can be replaced. A screw is a part of a machine, but a limb is organic. It shares the blood, the nervous system, the life of the body. So if you accept that you are a limb of the universe, then whatever happens to you, even if it looks like bad luck, is good for the whole. And if it's good for the whole, it's good for you. This is how he deals with things that seem unfair. Why did I get sick? Why did this war happen? He reframes it. I am a cell in the body of nature. Sometimes a cell has to die for the body to live. Sometimes a foot has to step in mud for the man to walk. If you fight against your role, you're like a cancerous cell trying to kill the host. You're cutting yourself off. And there is nothing sadder to Marcus than a human being who has severed themselves from the rest of humanity. Restoring sanity and the 4 epithets. But it is easy to forget this when you're busy. The chaos of life, the emails, the noise, it drags you down. You lose the plot. Marcus gives himself a strategy to get back on track. He calls them the epithets. These are the titles he wants to earn. Upright, modest, straightforward, sane. He says, if you lose these names, get them back quickly. Think of it like a role you're playing. When you walk into a meeting and you start playing the game, lying a little bit, flattering someone you hate, acting arrogant, you have lost your epithets. You've become the courtier. You've become the politician. Marcus warns himself, don't let the role of the emperor swallow the role of the philosopher. It's a fight for sanity. We all have those moments where we snap at our spouse or get road rage, and afterwards we think, who was that? That wasn't me. Marcus says, exactly. That wasn't the sane you. That was the madness taking over. Your job is to remember those words, upright, modest, straightforward, and grab onto them like a life raft. The mockery of glory, the spider and the fly. And speaking of madness, let's talk about glory. This is one of the funniest, darkest sections in the whole book. You have to remember, Marcus Aurelius is the most powerful military leader on earth. He is conquering tribes, he is having triumphs thrown in his honor. And what does he compare himself to? A spider. He looks at a spider catching a fly. The spider is so proud. Look at me, the spider thinks. I am a hunter. Then he looks at a hunter catching a hare, or a fisherman catching a sardine. Then he looks at the Roman legions catching the Sarmatians, the tribes they were fighting. He says they are all the same. They are just robbers. They are just capturing something weaker than themselves and calling it glory. It is a devastating takedown of his own career. He realizes that the thing the world calls greatness, conquest, fame, power, is usually just bullying on a large scale. It's vanity. If you are proud of capturing a fly, you're an idiot. If you're proud of capturing a country, you're just a dangerous idiot. The constant flux of nature. He moves from the vanity of glory to the reality of physics. Everything is moving, nothing stays still. If you try to hold on to something, a moment, a person, a state of health, you will be miserable because the nature of the universe is flux. He uses the method of physics. This is a mental tool. When something looks overwhelming or beautiful or scary, break it down, strip it naked. What is the cause? What is the matter? What is the reference? The time limit? That gold ring? It's just metal dug out of the dirt. That purple robe? It's sheep's wool dyed with shellfish blood. That handsome face? It's decomposing organic matter. He sees the world like a forest. Leaves fall, the tree is bare. Then spring comes and new leaves grow, but they aren't the same leaves. The generations of men are just like leaves. We fall, we rot, we feed the soil, and the next generation rises. If you understand this, you stop desperately trying to be immortal. You accept that you are just a leaf, and leaves are supposed to fall. Action over theory, the essential maxim. And this leads us to perhaps the most famous line in the entire book, maybe the most famous line in all of Stoicism. He has spent 9 books arguing with himself, defining good, defining evil, debating the nature of the soul. And in Book 10, verse 16, he snaps. He's sick of his own voice. He's sick of the theory. He writes, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Boom. That is it. That is the whole philosophy. We love to argue about morality. We love to debate ethics on Twitter or in classrooms. We love to read books about self-improvement. Why? Because talking about it is easier than doing it. Talking about being a good man feels productive, but it's a trap. It's procrastination disguised as nobility. Marcus catches himself. He says, "Stop defining it. You know what it is. Just go do it." If you take nothing else away from this book, take that. Stop reading about the gym and go work out. Stop reading about kindness and go help someone. Action over theory, always. When the action gets too chaotic, he uses the view from above. He visualizes time, not just his lifespan, but the abyss, the deep, gaping chasm of eternity. Imagine all of time, past and future, as a giant ocean. Now imagine your life. It's a drop, not even a drop, a mist. He looks at human drama from this distance. He imagines looking down on a city. He sees people marrying, fighting, farming, dying, crying over money, celebrating victories.
From a distance, it looks like an ant colony. It's not that it's meaningless, it's that it's small. He confronts the idea of death here with a fascinating comparison. He says, take a life that lasts 3 days. Now take a life that lasts 3 centuries. In the face of infinity, what is the difference? If you stand next to a mountain, you feel small. If you stand next to the universe, the difference between a baby who dies at birth and the oldest man in the world is 0. This crushes the ego. It stops you from taking yourself so seriously. You're just a speck for a split second, so why are you so worried about what the other specks think of you? Dealing with wrongdoers and anger. But those other specks can be annoying. Marcus deals with a lot of difficult people, schemers, liars, ungrateful friends. His strategy for anger in Book 10 is pure determinism. He asks, why are you angry? If they are doing something wrong and they know it, then they are just broken. But usually they don't think they are wrong. They think they are right.
So instruct them, teach them, show them the error. But what if they won't listen? What if they can't be taught? Then getting angry is like getting angry at a bad smell. It's just the nature of the thing. He says, this man was bound to act this way. Expecting a bad person not to do bad things is foolishness. It's asking a fig tree not to produce figs. If you are angry, it's actually your fault. You expected them to be different than they are. You're fighting reality. It's a failure of their faculty. They are blind to the truth. You don't hate a blind man, you pity him. Acceptance of death and loss. And finally, we reach the end, the acceptance. Book 10 is full of farewells. He is making his peace with the inevitable. He uses the metaphor of the actor.
Imagine an actor on a stage. He's in the middle of a great scene. He's enjoying the role. But then the director walks out and says, okay, that's it. Scene over. You're done. The actor doesn't get to say, but I have 5 more acts. I haven't finished my monologue. No. If the director says the play is 5 acts, it's 5 acts. If the director says it's 3 acts, it's 3. Nature is the director. You are the actor. Your job is to play the role well for as long as you are on stage, and then leave without a fuss. He wants to depart gracefully. The image that lingers is the ripe olive. Imagine an olive hanging on the tree. It grows, it ripens, and then it falls. It doesn't scream, it doesn't cling to the branch. It falls, and as it hits the ground, it doesn't curse the earth. It blesses the earth that grew it. It gives thanks to the tree that held it. That is how Marcus wants to die. Not with fear, not with regret, but with gratitude. I was here, I played my part, thank you for the time. That is the essence of Book 10. It is the transition from trying to be good to being good, and finally, being ready to go. We have arrived at Book 11, and if you've been following along, you might feel like you know the drill by now. You might think, okay, control your perceptions, accept fate, we're all going to die. Got it. But Book 11 is different. If the previous books were about theory, about the architecture of the universe, Book 11 is the field manual. It is specific. It is tactical. It is Marcus Aurelius sitting you down and saying, okay, you understand the philosophy? Good. Now here is exactly how you act when your annoying neighbor insults you. It is a toolkit for the rational soul. The properties of the rational soul. So let's start there. What is this rational soul Marcus keeps talking about? He doesn't view the soul as some ghostly mist floating in your chest. To him, the soul is a mechanism. It's an engine. And in the opening of this book, he breaks down exactly what this engine can do that nothing else in nature can. First, it defines itself. Think about that.
A tree can't decide to be a rock. A dog can't decide to be a cat. But your soul, it makes itself whatever it wills. It is the only thing in the universe that is completely self-determined. It also bears fruit at all times. Marcus loves this agricultural metaphor. If you plant a vine, you have to wait for the season, the rain, the sun, and eventually you get grapes. But the rational soul, it achieves its end in every single moment. If you act with justice right now, you have succeeded. You don't have to wait for the result. The action itself is the fruit. But then Marcus gives us this beautiful, strange image. He talks about the sphere of the soul. He says the soul is like a sphere that retains its perfect shape. It doesn't bulge outward after things it wants. It doesn't collapse inward to hide from things it fears. It stays perfectly round, perfectly tense, illuminated by truth. When your soul is a sphere, light shines on it, and it shines light on the world. You see things exactly as they are. You don't see insults, you see noises. You don't see loss, you see change. You stay in shape. Now, strangely, right after talking about the perfect soul, Marcus starts talking about theater. At first glance, it feels random. Why is the Emperor of Rome doing a movie review? But look closer. He's looking for tools. He's asking, why do we watch fake tragedies? He looks at old Greek tragedy. Think Oedipus, think Prometheus. We watch these horrible things happen on stage, betrayal, murder, incest, and we enjoy it. We learn from it. Marcus says the point of tragedy is to remind us that these things happen.
It's exposure therapy. He says, if you can handle it on the stage, you shouldn't be shocked when it happens on the grander stage of life. Then he looks at comedy. He likes the old comedy, the stuff that was rude, direct, and unpretentious. The kind of comedy that stripped power of its arrogance. It taught humility. But he warns against what comedy became later, middle and new comedy. It became technical. It became about mimicry and clever tricks. It lost its moral core.
The lesson: art isn't just entertainment. It's a rehearsal for reality. If you can't handle the drama in a play, you'll crumble when the drama comes for you. The analogy of the branch. This leads us to one of the most famous images in the entire book, the branch. We talk a lot about Stoicism being about independence, being an island, but Marcus smashes that idea here. He asks you to picture a branch cut off from a tree. Obviously, if you cut a branch off, it loses the neighboring branch, but that's not the problem. The problem is that it loses the whole tree. It loses the sap. It loses the life force. He says this is what happens when you get angry at another person. When you hate someone, when you turn your back on them in resentment, you think you're just cutting off that guy. You think, I'm just not talking to Dave anymore. No, you have severed yourself from the tree of humanity. You have become an alien body. But here is the miracle. This is the one place where nature allows a do-over. A real branch, once cut, is dead. It can't grow back. But a human being, you can graft yourself back on. You can drop the anger, repair the bond, and the sap starts flowing again. But Marcus warns us, don't do it too often. If you keep cutting yourself off and grafting back on, eventually the scar tissue gets too thick. The connection gets weak. You become part of the tree, but you don't thrive.
So how do we stay on the tree? How do we deal with the people who want to cut us off? He gives us a 2-track strategy. Judgment, keep your mind firm. Don't agree with their bad behavior. Action, keep your heart kind. Don't stop helping them. Most of us fail at one of these. We either get angry and fight back, losing our kindness, or we get intimidated and give in, losing our judgment. Marcus says, do neither. Be soft in your manner, but hard in your principles. The 10 Gifts from Apollo. And now we get to the core. Marcus outlines 10 specific strategies for dealing with difficult people. He calls these gifts from Apollo, Apollo being the god of healing. These are medicines for your temper. If you struggle with road rage, or an annoying boss, or a disrespectful teenager, this list is gold. Gift 1. The organic connection. We start with biology. We are made for each other. He uses the image of the ram and the flock. He is the leader, the ram, and his job is to protect the flock. If he attacks the flock, he violates his own nature. Lower things exist for higher things, and higher things exist for one another. You are biologically wired to cooperate. Fighting is unnatural. Gift 2. The context of character. Look at the whole person. When someone is rude to you, pause. Ask yourself, what did they eat for breakfast? How do they sleep? What compulsions drive them? Usually, people are slaves to their own habits. They aren't attacking you. They are acting out a script written by their own trauma and poor choices. Pity them. Don't fight them. Gift 3. The logic of action. This is pure logic. Ask yourself, is what they are doing right? If it is right, why are you angry? If it is wrong, then clearly they don't know any better. They are acting involuntarily. Marcus believed that no one chooses to be evil on purpose. They choose it because they mistake it for good. They are confused. You don't get angry at a blind man for bumping into you. Gift 4. The mirror of humility. This one hurts. He says, look at yourself. You are exactly like them. And even if you aren't doing that specific bad thing right now, you have the capacity to do it. You have the seed of it in you. Maybe you're just too scared to do it, or you care too much about your reputation. But you aren't better. You're just different. Get off your high horse. Gift 5. The uncertainty of motive. You don't actually know what's going on. You see the action, but you don't see the motive. Maybe that guy cut you off in traffic because he's rushing to the hospital. Maybe your friend didn't text back because they are depressed, not because they hate you. A lot of things have to happen, Marcus says, before you can judge another person's soul. You don't have the data. Gift 6. The perspective of mortality. When you are absolutely boiling with rage, just stop and think, in a very short time, both of us will be dead. We are two ghosts arguing over a penny. It's pathetic. The grave is waiting. Is this really how you want to spend your last few moments? Gift 7. The source of pain. Here is the classic Stoic separation. What hurts you? Is it their action? No. Their action is just air moving or bodies moving. What hurts is your opinion that you have been insulted. If you can stop telling yourself, I have been wronged, the pain vanishes. The anger comes from inside the house. Gift 8. The cost of anger. Do the math. The anger you feel causes you more suffering than the thing you are angry about. The insult lasted 2 seconds. Your rage about it lasts 2 days. Who is punishing you? You are. Gift 9. My brother, don't do that. You're only hurting yourself. Eventually, they run out of steam. Kindness is like water. It yields, but it puts out the fire. And then he adds a bonus. Gift 10. The madness of expectation. This is for when you are shocked that a jerk is being a jerk. Marcus says it is literal madness to expect bad people not to do bad things. It's like expecting a fig tree not to produce figs. If you know someone is selfish and you act surprised when they are selfish, that is your fault. You have the eyes to see who they are. Use them. The 4 perversions of the mind. After giving us the cure, he diagnoses the disease. He lists 4 deviations or perversions of the mind that we need to monitor constantly. The unnecessary thought. This is mental clutter, imagining arguments that haven't happened, worrying about things you can't control. It's noise. Cut it. The antisocial thought. Anything that breaks the bond with humanity. If you catch yourself plotting against someone, stop. You are severing the branch. The insincere thought. Lying. Marcus hates this. He says your face should be so honest that people can read it in your eyes before you even speak. A fake person is like a wolf in friendship's clothing. The self-reproach. This is when the body beats the mind. When you seek pleasure you know is bad, or avoid pain you know is necessary. It's the soul admitting defeat to the flesh.
Comparative philosophies and death. Towards the end of the book, Marcus touches on death again, but he makes a very specific point about readiness. He says the soul should be ready to be released from the body at any moment. But, and this is a big but, it must be done out of reason. He takes a swipe at the Christians here. Now, historically, this is interesting. Marcus saw Christians being martyred in the arena. They died bravely, but to Marcus, they weren't dying because they had reasoned through it. They were dying out of sheer obstinacy. It was a rigid, trained opposition. He says, don't die like a fanatic. Die like a philosopher. It should be a calm, reasoned decision to leave the party, not a theatrical protest. He also looks at the Epicureans. When Epicurus was sick, he didn't complain about his bowel movements or his pain. He talked to his friends about philosophy. He protected his mind to the very end. Marcus loves that. Even on your deathbed, keep the sphere of the soul intact. Wisdom in fragments. The book closes with these scattered, brilliant little shards of wisdom. He's quoting others, pulling from his library. He quotes a story about Socrates. Socrates refused to visit the tyrant Perdiccas because he said, I do not want to perish by the worst of deaths, meaning receiving a favor I cannot return. For a Stoic, owing a moral debt to a bad man is a fate worse than death.
And then he quotes Epictetus, the slave philosopher who inspired him so much. Epictetus gives advice on parenting that sounds absolutely horrific to modern ears, but is deeply grounding. He says, when you kiss your child goodnight, whisper to yourself, tomorrow you may be dead. It sounds morbid, it sounds cruel, but the point isn't to be cold. The point is to love them fiercely right now.
Don't assume you have forever. Don't assume they will grow up. If you realize this kiss might be the last one, how much more attention will you pay to it? How present will you be? That is the essence of Book 11. It's about connection, connecting to your own soul, connecting to the human race, and connecting to the reality of death. It's about knowing that we are all leaves on the same tree, and even if the wind blows us away, while we are here, we hold on to each other.
So here we are, Book 12, the final chapter. If you've been following Marcus Aurelius through the Meditations, you know this hasn't been a polished philosophical treatise. It's a diary. It's a man wrestling with himself in a tent, probably freezing, probably tired, surrounded by a war he didn't start. And now we reach the end. There is a shift in tone here. Can you feel it? In the earlier books, he's coaching himself, trying to build habits. In Book 12, the sun is setting. He knows the end is coming. The patience for maybe someday is gone. This is the last call. It's urgent. It's beautiful. And honestly, it's a little terrifying if you really let it sink in.
Let's walk through his final thoughts. The urgency of now. Marcus starts by basically grabbing you by the shoulders and shaking you. He says, look,
If you could just cut away the baggage, if you could stop obsessing over the past and stop terrified guessing about the future, you could actually live. We all do this, right? We replay that stupid thing we said 5 years ago, or we panic about a meeting that's happening next Tuesday. Marcus calls this dead weight. The past is gone. It's a ghost. The future? That's up to Providence. It's not yours yet. He talks about receiving the present moment untainted. Think about that word, untainted. Most of us receive the present moment covered in the mud of yesterday or the anxiety of tomorrow. We are never just here. We're always somewhere else in our heads. Marcus lays down a challenge. He says, suppose you died right now, instantly. Would you be okay with the ledger? Would you feel shortchanged? Or would you be able to say, I lived according to nature. I did my job. He wants you to live the rest of your life, however much is left, whether it's an hour or 50 years, as a bonus. It's extra time. If you treat today like it's a bonus round, you stop fearing death. You stop hoarding time and start using it. He gets a little technical here, but stick with me because it's a brilliant way to visualize your own stress. Marcus breaks a human being down into 3 parts: the body, the breath, or spirit, and the mind. The body, that's just the container. It's the meat suit. It gets sick, it gets old, it hurts. The breath, that's the pneumatic system, the air in your lungs, the blood pumping. These 2 things, body and breath, are yours to take care of, sure, but they aren't you. The 3rd part, the mind, the ruling faculty, that's you. That is the only territory you actually control. Here is the liberation. Marcus says you have to separate your mind from the other 2. You have to separate your mind from what others say. You have to separate it from the things happening to your body. If someone insults you, that sound hits your ears. Body, it might spike your heart rate. But your mind? Your mind can look at that insult and say, this has nothing to do with me. This is the ultimate defensive strategy. He tells us to build a wall around the mind, not to shut the world out, but to realize that the debris of life, the traffic jams, the rude colleagues, the bad weather, those things are hitting the container. They aren't hitting the pilot. If you can make that distinction, you become untouchable. The paradox of self-love. This section makes me laugh because it is so painfully human. Marcus asks a question that hits hard. I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. Read that again. It's the great human absurdity. We are self-absorbed creatures. We care about our own survival of happiness more than anything. And yet, if a stranger on the internet or a coworker we don't even respect criticizes us, we collapse. We value their assessment more than our own. Marcus is pointing out the insanity of this. He basically says, look at these people you are trying to impress. Look at their inner lives. Look at their judgments, their fears, their petty squabbles. Do you respect them deeply? Probably not. So why are you handing them the keys to your self-worth? He tells us to train the mind to respect itself, not in an arrogant way, not I'm the best, but in a grounded way. I know who I am. I know my values. Why would I trade my own judgment for the judgment of a crowd that doesn't even know itself? It's a call to stop outsourcing your validation. Now we get into the heavy stuff, the metaphysics. Marcus looks around at the world, a world full of plague and war, and he asks the question we all ask: why do the good ones die young? Why do brilliant, kind people disappear into the void, while awful people seem to live forever? It feels unfair. Marcus stops himself right there. He says, look, if it ought to have been otherwise, the gods, or nature, or the universe, whatever you want to call it, would have made it so. The fact that it is this way means it must be this way,
for the whole system to work. It's hard to swallow, I know, but his point is about surrender. You are a tiny part of a massive organism. You don't know the whole picture. You're arguing with reality. He says debating the fairness of the universe is futile. It's like a toe arguing with the foot. The limits of your life are set by a rational universe. If you fight against that reality, you're just making yourself miserable. You're a tumor on the universe, as he says elsewhere. Instead, he advises us to align with it, to say, okay, this is the rule set. I will play by it. You're going to deal with difficult people. That's a guarantee. Marcus has a specific way of handling this in Book 12. He brings up the doctrine of involuntary error. This is a core Socratic idea that the Stoics loved. It goes like this. No one wakes up in the morning and says, I want to be a terrible person today. People do bad things because they are confused. They think what they are doing is right, or necessary, or advantageous. They are acting out of ignorance of the good. So Marcus says you have two choices. Teach them or tolerate them. That's it. Get angry? Not an option. Resent them? Waste of energy. Either show them where they are wrong or realize they are too far gone and just put up with it. He uses this great metaphor of a boxer or a wrestler. When you step into the ring, you expect to get hit. You don't get punched in the face and scream, "How dare you? I thought we were friends." No, it's a boxing match. Getting hit is part of the deal. Life is the same. Expecting everyone to be nice to you is like entering a boxing ring and expecting a hug. When someone is rude, Marcus says, a blow from a sparring partner. Dodge it, block it, move on. But don't take it personally. It's just the sport. The toolkit. Lamps and left hands. In this final book, Marcus empties his pockets. He gives us his best mental images, little tools to carry around. First, the lamp. He says, a lamp does not cease to shine until it is extinguished. It doesn't flicker because it's tired. It doesn't dim because the room is ugly. It shines. He tells himself, ensure your truth and justice don't fade before you die. Be the lamp. Just keep shining until the fuel runs out. Then the view from above. He loves this one. He imagines looking down on the earth. He sees armies fighting over borders, people arguing over money. From space, it looks like ants fighting over a crumb. It looks ridiculous. This isn't to say life is meaningless, but to check our ego. Your problems aren't as big as you think they are. And I love the left hand analogy. He notes that for most people, the left hand is weaker than the right, except when holding a bridle. Riders use their left hand to control the horse, so the left hand becomes stronger than the right in that specific context because of practice. The lesson? You can train yourself to do anything, even things that feel unnatural, like patience or courage, if you just practice that one specific grip. Habit conquers weakness. Stripping the world naked. Marcus is obsessed with seeing things as they really are. He wants to strip away the story we tell ourselves. He talks about causality and matter. He looks at a beautiful, expensive purple robe. What is it really? It's sheep wool dyed in the blood of a shellfish. That's it. He looks at fine wine. It's rotting grape juice. He looks at sexual intimacy. It's friction and the secretion of fluids. He's not being a killjoy. Well, maybe a little. He's trying to kill the glamour. He wants to see the world naked. We do this today. We look at a luxury car and see status and success. Marcus would say, look closer. It's metal, it's rubber, it's plastic, it will rust. Why does he do this? Because if you see things for what they physically are, they lose their power over you. You stop craving them so desperately. You stop fearing them. You realize that everything is just matter, moving around, decomposing, and reforming. It's all ephemeral. And then, the end. The final passage of the Meditations. It is, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful things ever written. Marcus addresses the fear of a short life. Maybe you die at 20, maybe at 80, He says it doesn't matter. He uses the metaphor of a play. In the theater, a play might have 5 acts. But what if the director walks on stage after 3 acts and says, "Okay, that's it, curtain down"? The actor doesn't argue. The actor doesn't say, "But I haven't finished my monologue." The actor bows and leaves. Marcus says, nature is the playwright. Nature hired you, and nature is firing you. The length of the play is not up to you. Your only job is to play your role well for however long you are on stage. His final instruction to himself and to us is simple. Pass on your way then with a smiling face under the smile of him who bids you go. Leave gracefully. Don't be dragged off stage screaming. Walk off smiling, grateful you got to be in the play at all. And with that, the emperor puts down his pen. The meditation ends, and the rest is up to us.